just this monthly event. There is a monthly event every month in the Mana Trader series. Different formats, they mix. So, maybe Modern's not your forte. Maybe you're more of a Pioneer player, Standard player, Legacy. I think there's even been a Vintage one. You know what I mean? And kind of you're a bit of a partial to Vintage. But lots of different formats you can turn up with. It is MTGO, so there's lots of balance there. What sort of decks you want to play, and you're going to qualify for the end of the year. 48 players are going to get invites to a $25,000 tournament for free. All you got to do is just do well. Multiple different ways to qualify for it. Top 2 people in the Swiss each month, and top 2 people overall. So tomorrow in the top 8, whoever comes first and second, they will also guarantee themselves spots. But then if you do the math, I'll let you all work it out really quickly. There are 8 spots left. Now, how do we fill those last 8 spots? Well, everyone gets points for playing in these events and doing well. If you manage to get in the top 8, you'll get yourself points. Just for being in 8th place, you'll be able to get yourself 3 points. And then 7th, you'll get 4 points, and you'll work all the way up until 3rd place, you get 8 points. As you see on the screen here, if we cut it off now, and we just went, that's it, stop the count, these 8 players here will get themselves invites. As we're quite early on in the season, you know what I mean? If you come 3rd place in an event, you'll get yourself 8 points. That will skyrocket you into the top 4 currently. And if there is a bit of a tie, it will come down to appearances. So it does make sense. The more times you play in these monthly events, that could be the deal breaker if you're on equal points to someone else. So you want to be playing in these events. Why wouldn't you? It's free. It's literally free money and a high competitive level tournament in multiple different formats. Test your skill. But that's the other way. So if maybe you get a bit unlucky, tiebreakers, matchings, variants don't go your way, you've always got this extra chance here to qualify. So that's for 48 players at the end of the year to pay in a $25,000 tournament. I love high stakes Magic. You know what I mean? That's kind of my thing. I love competitiveness. Clearly you do, with the amount of trophies that you have behind us, just flexing on me continuously. I'm kind of used to it now. I might go get my 1 trophy in a second and just like hover it over here above the mic or something, just to really try and put the intimidation into your face, Kanister. I'm sure I'll get a good reaction from that. But or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd be based. I don't know if I'm using that right again or not. I don't know. Adrian, do we have our backup feature?
Certainly using it.
Am I totally using it right?
You certainly are using it, but I left out
using
the
it.
judgment
That makes me feel even
out
better.
of this
More like
praise
a boomer.
for comical purposes.
That's what I'm here for. I'm basically just a clown at the end of the day, here to entertain everybody and make them smile. That's all I'm here for. We are going into round number 5 though. So Adrian's just queuing up which feature matches we're going to be looking for. I believe is it the match or the deck that I picked? Is that the one we're going to be seeing? Okay, so we've got Victor Cavallo, who is going to be playing Amulet Titan, is currently 4-0. That's probably the last rogue deck, so to speak, in the 4-0 bracket. So we're going to be looking at them. I know that you've played a lot of Amulet in your time, Kanister. I think this deck is one of the most powerful decks in Modern.
Well, that calling Amulet a rogue deck is slightly disrespectful towards the deck.
Out of our meta, it was not in the top 10 decks that have been played. Okay, there's less than 3 people playing this deck this weekend, so I'm calling it a rogue deck. But and it's got no rogues in it before
fallen into the other category. That makes sense then.
But I think genuinely, I feel that this might be one of the best performing decks in a future Pro Tour that might be coming up. I think this deck is very, very powerful, super powerful, in fact. But I think it's extremely hard to play well. Everyone can play it, and then, when you get those, oh yeah, I play Amulet and Titan, and I go off. Sure, like the deck's very powerful in that aspect, but knowing like the real detailed interactions, knowing when to do things, how to play around it, this is going to be really rewarding to people that have put a lot of effort and time into this deck. And personally, I haven't done it. I think the deck's too big brain for me to play. That's why I'm in this seat, not the expert seat, because you're going to be talking about all the different interactions that could happen, different lines of things like summoners pack, bounce effects, stacking triggers. Which creature do we go and find? Do we play borrowers to do this? Do we hold up and miss land drops purposely because we've only got the 1 bounce land? So much that goes into it, and I genuinely think it is one of the harder decks to play. in modern. I don't know if you agree with me on that one. Then you play a lot of different decks and a lot of different
It
formats.
is, it is a deck that requires a lot of knowledge, so certainly there is a high barrier of entry when it comes to learning Amulet. You do have to learn things. Also, you have to learn things that are kind of just specific to Amulet and are not
Mhm.
really transferable or applicable to other Magic or modern decks. So certainly it is hard in that sense.
And it's picked up a new tool recently, right? In the Lattice, is it the new
Because
card that
then
can copy?
Gardens is the name of the card. So it is a way to copy Amulet relatively easily, and the deck is named Amulet, and that is because with an amulet or multiple in play, it just goes off real hard. So
And they are against Merc Tide. Obviously, we've seen this play multiple times so far this weekend, and it's always managed to put up the W. Are they going to be able to do it here in round number 5? Let's see how they go about it. And they are starting off with the turn 1 best one drop in Magic, Ragavan. But then on the other side, we do have the namesake card, Amulet of Vigor. This enables a lot of really explosive draws on the upper side of the battlefield if they manage to go off. What are like the kind of the key cards here over on the I'm gonna say the Murktide side because they have to stop Amulet doing what Amulet's doing basically. What are the key cards or key interactions?
leading on Ragavan and DRC is pretty good for interacting, well, pressuring early and then focusing on interacting later. And as you said, Ragavan the best one drop in Magic. Amulet of Vigor can only claim the second best at this rate. What do we want if we are playing Amulet in this situation is we would like to set up for a powerful turn 3 or 4. So there
I'm
is there
trying
is
to
a
look
few
here.
options.
Yeah, we could
Merktide is
go
going
what?
to
Azusa?
try to, yeah, we can go Swimming Grove Chamber, Azusa, then play like Castle Garenbrick, Uza Saga. That does mean that Azusa will be able to be dealt with by a lightning bolt on the next turn, but you could also try to. You don't need Azusa anymore. You're gonna have Garen
Yeah.
Brig and Urza Saga. That's gonna be enough to get there next turn.
Like
You
it's done
might
its job, right? Is
play
it
you might play Explore here, but you are playing into a spell piece that you kind of maybe don't always need to. You're also playing into a spell center, playing around which does not make much sense because it's always gonna get your Explore, so it ends up working pretty well for Victor.
see if they've got any other 2 drops in their deck that could be pointed at? It doesn't look like they do. It is just the 4 Explorer in the main. So, quite good being able to snag that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try and turn Delirium on by the looks of it. I think we're missing Creature and Sorcery. There's
Yeah,
Creature.
not
Put Ragavan in
not
the bin.
anymore. So probably gonna see Lightning Bolt on the Azusa, but Danielakos really needs to draw a counter spell right now to
And they
be
don't have
able
it.
to counter the Primal Titan that's coming next turn, but seemingly that is not the case.
Even a Spell Pierce might have done it, right? Because obviously we need to summon this pact here for the Titan currently. Unless we do draw it off the top of
Exactly.
our deck.
Exactly. So instead we're gonna see probably Simi Grove Chamber, float 4 mana, use Castle Garenbrick, cast Summoner's Pact. Probably in slightly different order. You probably want to cast your pact first because of Spell Pierce. Not very important, but it's a pretty stressful way to cast your Primeval Titan though, because you see that your opponent has 2 mana up, and you see that they are playing Murktide. So obviously the chance that they have a counterspell is pretty high, and on top of that, they could also have Unholy Heat. Now we do know that Odanilakos' hand does not have either of those cards, so the coast is clear to go for a Titan and try to progress in the game, but it's very scary from Victor's side, and Victor really needs to consider all the options and all upsides and downsides. Maybe you'd prefer to make a construct token and try to go off next turn with two amulets instead. But it is not clear if it's necessarily actually better because your opponent will be able to still keep up the counterspell if you believe that they have one at that very moment. So
So I'm
we're going
thinking
to
like,
see
what if they like
what line
wait a
they're going to take.
turn, make construct, use that to block with. Next turn they go get a map into a cavern of souls maybe, and try and go off that
That's
route.
that's a line that's very slow though compared to just playing a Titan on this turn. So it's pretty hard. Instead, we see explore, which
Yeah,
makes sense. It's effectively costs net 0 mana, so you get to see an extra card, and it might help uh, Victor take a better decision in this spot. We could see a spell pierce targeting the explore though, and that would be crucial if that is gonna be what's found.
no,
Nope,
just another
just an
iteration.
extra iteration.
Primeval Titan was drawn for the turn.
Yeah, that's
So
that's much more comfortable. You
yeah,
just get to play your Titan. You don't have to pact. You don't have to pay for a pact next turn.
we did that
You get
thing
to
that we
keep your
do
Titan. Yeah, that's just way
when we
simpler.
overthink things again, or where we just don't need to overthink them. It's easy. Just draw the Titan and just cast it. Like what
Well,
we're just doing. We're overthinking it again.
I think there is a difference between just draw card X and just attack with all of your creatures because one is clear beforehand, the other one is not possible to see before you take that draw step. But
you didn't know that there was a
I agree.
Primeval Titan on top. Come on, mate.
I did not know.
Oh, you need to switch on. We obviously all knew it was going to happen, and it looks like we are going to see this come down off the castle again. The castle acts kind of as 2 mana. We could pay 4 mana into it, 2 green, 2 colors, and it makes 6 green mana that can be used to cast creature spells. Luckily, Primeval Titan happens to be a 6 mana creature, all in green, and it does hit the battlefield. It's going to trigger, get itself 2 lands to enter the battlefield tapped. But luckily, we've got this Amulet of Vigor, so they're going to be untapped. And usually, talk us through this line. What are the cards that they normally get here? Are they going to try and go for the giving it
The fourth
haste plan,
pair
or they're going to go for the
would
value plan? Because
be, yeah,
Unholy Heat's
the
still a
fourth
card.
one would be to grab the lens that haste your Titan. So that is one of the options. If you are scared of Unholy Heat, you could go for a value plan, as you say. Although, if you go for a value plan, value pair of lands, I'm not even sure what you're getting. And uh, as you have a backup Summoner's Pact in your hand already, so you are actually already backed up, and you know that this Titan has resolved, so you might kind of bank on the other one resolving too. Not clear, but maybe.
Just looking at the
So
deck list, there is no like Bajuka Bogs. They're in the sideboard. Other than
yeah, so
that,
we're probably
realistically,
gonna
it's just
see the haste lands, honestly. I think
yeah.
it's worth going for that, forcing the Unholy Heat to be there. If Unholy Heat is not there, then you just get an enormous advantage if you if you actually get to attack. So I like Victor's play here.
That is what we're going to see happen. It is going to gain haste. It is going to get to code of combat and get another trigger to go find another 2 lands here. Remember, no Summoner's Pact was cast to find this. We managed to get it off the top, so we do not have to pay 4 mana in our upkeep.
Exactly. Now we could see Talaria West and Simi Grove Chamber maybe. Alternatively, setting up a Valakut in play is valuable for incoming Dryad of Elysian Grove. Uh, if you want to be extreme, you could go for a bounce line in Valakut, bounce whatever, and then play a Dryad and fetch a Dryad with Summoner's Pact, and then play it, and then deal an extra point of damage, an extra Valakut trigger to the DRC. But that seems like this is not the line that Victor is going for. Instead, fetching 2 Semi-Grove Chambers, which I'm not sure I get exactly.
I'm sure we'll end up finding out. There's one. I'm looking at their deck list now. Altered Ego in the main deck.
Okay, well, okay. That's a pretty huge difference. That makes sense. They know that the Titan has survived, so Of course, you can just get another Titan, and now you can get Tolaria West with another semi-growth chamber, transmute for yet another pact, and just have two Primeval Titans chilling on the battlefield while your opponent is tasked with dealing with them.
Let's see if I can find the Murktide list. Do they have Blood Moons in the main? There are no Blood Moons in the main of this deck list, so we don't have to worry about that. In fact, I don't yet. There is in the sideboard. There's one Blood Moon, one Magus. But we are in game one. If you're just tuning in, welcome. This is round number 5 of Modern Action All Weekend. We do have 8 rounds for you. And then we'll be cutting to the top 8, which will be getting played out tomorrow. So if you haven't hit the follow button, make sure you hit that follow button. Stay up to date on everything Mana Traders, which will be going on. Also got a Twitter. Go give them a follow on Twitter. So, maybe you want to play in this. Maybe you want to use one of the codes you can see on the screen now. We've got Bash Pros. That will give you 15% off the first couple of months of your subscription that you take out with Mana Traders. Or maybe you just got a big event coming recently that you need to practice for. So all reasons to do this. As we see a expressive iteration being cast here, Dragon Age Chandler, this is normally a super powerful play, still is, but staring down 2 Primeval Titans on the other side of the battlefield, it's going to be a little bit rough to try and get back from this, especially with these counter spells. Okay,
Too late.
Murktide is big.
It's big, but it doesn't matter anymore. If Victor untaps with 2 Primeval Titans, I assure you then that the path to victory is gonna be rather easy.
Okay. Is that because we can give them double strike and things like that?
Yes, we can double strike both of them thanks to the double amulet situation from Urza's Saga. We could fetch Dryad of Elysian Grove thanks to Tolaria West, and then kill the opponent with Valakut trigger. So the options are countless.
Again, spoke about it before this match. Super powerful deck. Really rewards the skill. Even got a little bit of spice with that alter ego. Can't believe I haven't seen that one before. I don't think. Normally you see like Cultivated Colossus as kind of like a value engine here, but altered ego, just a 4 mana Primeval Titan if it needs to be, if you've got one resolved. And it's got the added text on it. It can't be countered. So maybe that's a good hedge towards these Murktide lists.
A bit, although at the same time, the card kind of assumes that you have resolved a Primeval Titan beforehand, right? So
do you think it's more of a win more card or just like a toolboxy for situations like this?
It did seem pretty useful here, but I would say that the can't be counter text seems not to be the top priority of the card. More so, just being a green clone that you can fetch with Summoner's Pact is the valuable part, right?
So you can copy any creature on the battlefield as well, which is a nice little bit of text. In more recent years, we kind of see things that like target your own creature or fetch them from your own graveyard. This is any creature on the battlefield, so has its utilities. I'm sure not all downside, but realistically, we do want to be doing what it has done and copying Primeval Titans as we move to combat, and we do get to attack with both. 4 lands entering the battlefield, untapped twice. It can be a lot of mana floating. And as you said, most likely GGs and Amulet, as it's named on the screen, player is going to be able to go up 1.
Pretty lit indeed, yeah. But yeah, we're gonna see Sunhome fetch with the second Primeval Titan trigger, and it's gonna double strike both of the Titans, which is 12, 24 damage versus now all Danielakos is 8, 16, 17 total toughness plus life, so the Titans are gonna win.
Titans are going to win. They're basically the only that are out at the minute is misclicks, right? Maybe they target the Ragavan twice. Maybe the Murktide twice. We don't.
Maybe.
Okay, right. We failed there. We did manage to target our Primeval Titan and give it double strike, and both of them now double strike with trample. That is going to be enough to seal out this game. First strike damage is going to happen. Trample damage is going to happen, and then that's it. Game over. Go to sideboards. So I think we've got a sideboard for us. Let's see if we can skip across. I've got their deck lists up here as well. So I don't think we've got the Primeval Titan one, but I will talk you through what. Oh, okay. I lie. Adrian is all over it. This is the deck list. This is the sideboard, and there's some spicy ones in this sideboard. Talk us through them, and if you've been bringing any of them in, Mr. Canister.
This is the first time I have seen Kogla and Either show up in a deck list, or one of the first times, at least. But it's a pretty interesting card. It is a disenchant effect that you can fetch with Summoner's Pact and can be countered. You can destroy a Blood Moon with it. On top of that is also a decent threat once it's into play. Once it's in play, so actually kind of an interesting one to see. Kogla and Idaro. Dragon Lord Tatarka also pretty neat one. Having your threats be green/red is pretty nice against Blood Moon because you can pay the red mana under Blood Moon for free. Effectively, you will have mountains in play.
How about
For that,
Summoners? Not Summoners Pact, Slaughter Pact. One I haven't seen in many years.
Yeah, I have not seen that card in a while. It could be used in this matchup as an out to Magus of the Moon. I'm not entirely sure if that is Victor's plan exactly. Dismember also works against Magus of the Moon versus the actual Moon. There is Boseju's. We're gonna see a 3 copies of Cavern of Souls total.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you know, we kind of use our land as a toolbox deck. We have a couple in our sideboard to kind of bring in and out. What one just for me personally when I place it, what cards do you like taking out for the 2 extra Cavern of Souls?
Oh, it really depends. It could be that Urza's Saga is a card that you want to cut or at least trim on. You get to lessen your deck's vulnerability to Blood Moon effects then. On the other hand, this deck list actually omits a card that was a mainstay of Amulet decks for a while. Dryad of Elysian Grove is not there, so this deck is like full on focused on casting Titans early. So I would assume that that will make it so that Victor is actually not going to sideboard too much, and is probably going to stick to the main plan as the list structured in this way. Probably doesn't want to abandon that too hard.
I'm looking at the Murktide list here, and as we said, this is an open deck list tournament, and how like vital it is to be able to, you know, have your opponent play around certain cards. There's a lot of one-ofs in this list. There's actually 10 one-ofs, and 2 of them being 1 Blood Moon and 1 Magus to the Moon. So, you know, do they bring in the enchantment removal or the creature removal? Do they bring in both? It's making your opponent guess back and forth. As we see a Ragavan come down, most powerful 1-drop in modern, followed by a Grazer comes down, the 0/3 that blocks Ragavan pretty well, and it's eating a subtlety here. 2 cards to stop a 0/3 enter the battlefield.
It's pretty funny. It's always pretty funny. It's a pretty common play to subtlety and Arboreal Grazer after you light on Ragavan, but it's just always such like a funny play because it does feel like being like way too serious for for the thing. Of course, it's a good play. Just kind of has a funny vibe.
So we're going to play it to try and get the connive trigger off the Ledger Shredder, cycle away our lands, but unfortunately, we don't get a counter on the Ledger Shredder. And we're going to start lead with Expedition Map here into a bounce land, hit that forest back into our hand. So we're kind of really all in here, right? Like this is what we've got.
Yeah.
Extra
No
Ragavan, not what we want.
This endurance is actually going to be excellent for Victor. It's gonna just block the threats forever while Victor develops his mana.
Is there any key cards that Ragavan could hit that would kind of cripple the Primeval Titan deck? Like, could it hit like a random one of that? There's only one in the deck that it needs to function, or is it kind of almost Ragavan proof? Like they've got multiple of each card. Like obviously we know there's 4 Primeval Titans, but I'm looking.
You can hit Slayer Stronghold or something, but it's not a big
Yes.
deal. You can just win the game. Like you can still play Titan and it's still gonna have 6 power. It's still gonna have the attack trigger, so it's still a very real card. So It's not too big of a deal if that happens.
Okay, kind of all in. We're just going to play our land past the turn. Obviously, we know there's endurance in hand. That's a pretty good one. But then what are you going to block here? Do you
Right, the Ragavan.
the Rayman? Well, luckily we've got a redundant one in hand, which I suppose it will work out quite nicely if that is the card that is blocked.
True, true. Could also try to block the Ledger Shredder while it's still a 1-3. With a small hand of all Danielakos, it's actually pretty hard to connive all that much, so we'll see.
Gonna wait on these players and how they want to move forward. So say we go endurance this turn, cool. We've got a blocker, we get someone off the battlefield. They go Ragavan, Bauble, whatever top card is, that goes in the graveyard, potentially goes to Ledge Shredder. We Bauble, get another card in our upkeep. I suppose Counterspell might be the better one that we could hit. So we can stop something in the future. But then look at that hand, Urza's Saga can just also run away with this game. Oh, we're just going to start off with the
Yeah.
Bauble. Maybe we're not even going to go to attacks.
Urza Saga certainly a real threat.
Well,
Just
we're just
casting Loki to
okay.
connive straight up.
Putting some real respect on endurance here. Coming us down. We're
Yeah,
going to keep the one
not
that's not
sure
got
if that
summon
line
sickness.
respects endurance all that much. Maybe a little bit, I guess, if you think you can connive a spell. It's a bit weird that you are making your hand smaller so that you will connive less in the future, but I guess it did pay respect to endurance in the end.
It did pay off for them, but not in the best situation. Empty-handed. We are probably looking for something like an iteration to kind of restock our hand. Dismember off the top. Bauble trigger happens, so we do draw a Dragon Age channel off that. Not too good after an endurance, though. It will just be a 1-1. Saga for the turn. We don't really have a way to excel ourselves out here, right? We could summon us pack for an Azusa or something, but I don't think that's going to give us much value.
Yeah, you probably are not really interested in that. Just take it slowly. Use Saga to make constructs. You can wait. The most dangerous thing to happen is Blood Moon, but you have both Blood Moon and Magus of the Moon somewhat covered. You can fetch Boseiju with map, or you can use Dismember against Magus. So even if all Danielakos throwing the Blood Moon,
Blood Moon
this
for
specific
the
situation
turn.
is
Big top deck.
pretty powerful. It's not
It's
the
not
end of the world.
backbreaking, right? Because we're going to be able to find a forest here. We've already got a forest in play. Beseiju is just going to do just as much work by the looks of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is going to take out the Urza Saga, though. Layers and effects will be happening. So the Saga will go to the graveyard.
Certainly.
And Holy Heat drawn off the Connive and has to get discarded to Connive because we've got no more cards in hand. But it does put a counter on the Ledger Shredder. And then we're going to see that with the mana floating, Beseiju is going to come down, take care of that Blood Moon. We go fetch ourselves up another basic island. It does. It didn't even do much, right? It did some work here. Yeah, we filled up our graveyard up a little bit more. We have 3 card types in it, but we know there's a Bazooka Bog in hand. That's going to be able to exile those cards out the graveyard if we choose to go that route. We
You don't
are a
necessarily
little
want
bit
to exile the graveyard really, because if you force the Dragon Rage Channeler to attack into endurance, it's gonna kill itself. So
okay. Yeah, that
that
makes
might
sense.
be, you might not even be like as hard pressed to Bujuka Bok immediately.
Let's have realistically, the blue player is the one that's going to have all the cards in their hand, right? But not panned out this way. That turn 1 subtlety. So you're getting a 2 for 1 just for some Braziel Burrow to go back on top of their deck. So the Ragavan could connect.
Certainly.
I think we're thinking about combat here. Is there anything we like here? I don't see it. I think maybe we're just might be a case of double queuing. Not entirely sure, but we're just going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, the only
Gardens.
option to attack was to attack with both creatures, but then you just get your Ragavan blocked, so it does not look too good.
Okay, we are starting off with this Bajuka Bog. Exile in the graveyard. That's going to bring us up to 4 mana. So it's just 2 turns away from being able to hard cast this Primeval Titan.
Hmm.
And Unholy Heat, not too good when you've got an empty graveyard, but maybe potentially we can attack with the Ledger Shredder here.
Yeah,
Obviously,
attack Shredder is free, so I guess you could attack.
we do
As
know
long as
about the Dismember.
it has a second endurance and can double block, then it's not great, but you still get to, well, you get to trade a Ledger Shredder and an Unholy Heat for an endurance. It's maybe not great, but
Not ideal at all. But then you could just attack with the Ragavan as well if you wanted to. I suppose if you want to try and get it across that way, but it
true.
definitely an uphill battle for Merkside here.
Well, it's better to attack with just Ledger Shredder because then you don't lose your creature, right? If Ragavan gets blocked, you just lose your Ragavan, and if your Ledger Shredder gets blocked, you deal 2 damage to endurance, but you don't lose your Shredder. You keep your Shredder, so you get to continue pressuring the turn after.
Makes sense. Let's see what we've got.
The vision of a second endurance is pretty scary, but I don't think you can particularly afford to play around that. So
There are 3 in the sideboard as well. So as we've
yeah,
said multiple times, open deck list tournament. You do know what the 75 is your opponent is playing. You just don't know the 60 that they have.
you don't.
No,
But just thinking about from Danielakos' perspective, right? How can you really beat a second endurance if it would come here? If Victor is holding one hand right now, I don't really think so. It just seems like it would stop you way too much, and you just like never really achieve anything in this game. So might as well play as if there is no second endurance, even if there is a chance.
that's a
It is.
great way of looking at things, right? Like a lot of people don't do that. They're like, they will hold things, or they, tend to overthink it. And sometimes it's just, well, if they've got it, I'm not going to win anyway. So I might as well do it. If they don't have it, cool, I'm still in the game. If they do have it, I'm not winning the game anyway. So,
Yeah,
it is what it is. The cards don't line up right.
playing around things is like you play around things as long as you actually can play around them. Like sometimes playing around things is just sometimes you might think you're playing around things, but you're actually playing into things by giving your opponent more time and just like playing in an overall worse manner. You can see both players just taking so much time on their decisions. They do not want to make their moves carelessly. And
Where does the like the tells come into this? So like last time we didn't attack with this Ledger Shredder. But then we didn't have any cards in hand, so why would we? Doesn't make sense. But like, if they didn't attack last turn, but they do attack this turn, what sort of signs is that saying that, potentially what they've drawn in hand, and how big is it trying to read those signs? Or on the flip side of it, bluff those sort of signs. Like you see it multiple times in Magic where people will just get in there, they're 2-1. It's a terrible attack, but the odds that a timer if would end up dying if they have a lightning bolt or something, so they just go, oh, I'll just take the 2 damage, and you get to sneak that bit of chip damage in. I love that aspect of it. Bluffing your opponents. Obviously, we've seen LSV have one of the best ones of all time with that Set of the Wreckage.
Mhm. Yeah, certainly there is parts of that. What happens here is like, if Victor puts himself into Danielakos's position, right? Then you can realize that okay, attack with the Ledger Shredder is free if there is no endurance in my hand, but I do have endurance mana. So if Danielakos has nothing, then there is little reason to actually attack, which just signifies that the chance of an unholy heat being there to burn down the endurance after it has blocked is pretty high. So you could use that kind of reasoning to conclude that if your opponent is willing to take a risk here, then you should probably
Well,
respect their hand.
talking
Although,
about
of
top
course,
decks here, Iteration,
most
probably the
players
best top deck you can have in this spot. Manages to find the third blue source untapped into an Archmage Chime in hand the turn before a Primeval Titan is cast. That's going to keep them in this game. Like from going from losing, we've now got a game. We're still going. Consider off the top. We get obviously Dragon Rage keeps going. We don't want to turn Delirium on currently. because it now has to attack. We do turn it on with a land going to the graveyard. This means the Unholy Heat is now live to do 6 points of damage if needs be, and then potentially we can get across with the
Oh,
Ragavan
wow.
into an
Those are
iteration.
excellent draws, yeah, because now you can find a counter spell, and that would actually be game winning.
It'd be huge, wouldn't it? So coming across here, 5 points of damage.
And you get so many surveils along the way. So yeah, you get to hit, make a treasure, and then you get to cast your iteration, and you can find a counter spell from your deck. Find
I
a
mean, we're
primal
tight on
Titan.
top of the deck.
Okay.
Iteration, we are digging, we are trying to find this counter magic. We've seen it in the game before where we looked like the zoo player was completely out of the game and they can manage to turn it around. Are we going to see that again here? Murktide is pit to exile. Looks like we're just pitting everything on the battlefield and be like, look, go for it. If you've got me, you've got me. And
Mech region makes sense. Like it's not trivial for Amulet to deal with it, and you can sound respect for whatever you want. But well, there's one thing that could happen on the next turn. If we see the Murktide being played, we could see, if Victor boarded it in, we could see Dragon Lord Atarka entering the battlefield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands. Yeah,
yeah, we could see that come down.
which actually would be a reasonable play against the Murktide region in play. So that is what might happen next turn.
This game is super interesting, super back and forth. Very, I would 2 minutes ago said, oh, okay, right, Amulet's going to run away with this game, but they've kind of drawn all these like the haste effects on their hand by the looks of it. So they can play Amulet. Can they Amulet, copy Amulet, Summoners Pacts, have double Amulet Titan, and cast multiple Titans this turn, or but the Strongholds in play?
With
Yeah,
Stronghold in play,
my mind's fried.
home in hand, and Boros Garrison in hand, it's actually really hard to make a cohesive play here that actually wins and haste multiple Titans. So first and foremost, we could go Amulet, copy Amulet, Boros Garrison. You can keep Slayer Stronghold on top. That way you do have 2 Amulets. You get your Titan. Let's say you go Tolaria West and Simi Grove Chamber. Then you make 6 mana, which you could use on Alter the Ego, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. So I don't think if that quite makes sense. It might be an Atarka situation if Atarka is in the deck, which it might or might not be. We already seen Dismember and Endurance sideboarded. It's pretty hard to sideboard so many cards in Amulet. So
Well, we're going to try. We're going to go off with, there's got to be a line here that maybe they decided to go down because they haven't conceded. We are going to start off with Amulet of Vigor. We've got the ability to copy it if needs be. And we do have a bounce land in hand with a Summoner's Pack. So, a lot of tools, just how we're going to utilize them. And this is kind of what I was speaking about, was like knowing these interactions and the power of this deck and how explosive it can be. We've left up the double green, to be able to cast Titan if we need it. We definitely don't want to be exiling the graveyard because that will grow the Murktide.
you
Which is a
could
nice little added effect.
situation where you could go for Cultivator Colossus, except that there is only 2 green sources in play, and Boros Garrison doesn't produce more green, so that line is actually
What if we pack
not
for
available.
Dragon Lord Gataka here? No, actually, well, it's an 8/8. It can block,
Well, yeah, that
but
was the line I was proposing earlier. Yeah, that's something you
yeah,
could. But I was think I since Victor went for the double amulet line, I started to think if there is something funny that you can do with amulets.
obviously in the tank here, deciding what they need to do. This is the Boris Garrison, which normally is only a one of, and yet there's a one of in this list, and that's how we kind of give things haste, etc. So, going to be pretty hard for us to give whatever we go and find a target to give it haste, especially with Stronghold and that on the battlefield. Floating all our mana. What are we bouncing back to hand? Just
Finally, what's kind of key this turn is the fact that just all of the hands ended up in all of the lands ended up in play or hand. Play a stronghold, Boros Garrison, Sunhome is really actually so problematic.
I was- I'm looking at like Carnivated Colossus. What if we get that and we get loads of triggers and it goes loads of land go into play and then we draw our Titans off that?
That's impossible because we're missing
Yeah,
the third green.
that's what I was about
So
to say. We are missing the third green to do that though, so we can't go that route. Because we need cards, right? We literally need mass at the minute. We don't have it. But as I said, this deck is a bit too big brain for me at times. So we'll see how they want to go about it and if there is a line to win. Remember that there is a clock. They've only got 7 minutes on it, and we are in game number 2. Looks like we went for Dragon Ogre Ataka. So if we
yeah, but
had,
that was
hold
that
on,
was a play that
we're just
bounced
conceding.
Growlithe. Yeah, they bounced Growlithe and not Boros Garrison towards the end of
Oh,
the
so they don't
of
have
the
the mana
turn.
to pay for the pact.
So you died to the pack trigger. You had to leave Growlithe in play, and that was the line to survive.
We've all been there, dying to pack triggers. Back in the day, you used to be able to miss them. You can't miss them anymore now, apparently. So that's a little interaction if anyone's going to be using that card soon. On your screens now, currently we can see the Murktide list that we are seeing. Talk to me about what card. I'm guessing the Blood Moon effects have come in. So that and Magus, that's kind of the pseudo easy ones. And we also know the subtlety came in because we saw that cast on the Grazer. What about things
So
like
it's
Dress Down?
great.
As I said, there's a lot of one-offs here.
Dress down is very solid. It can turn off Titan for a turn, um, giving you time to use Find Unholy Heat to deal with that Titan. Besides that, not much that's particularly interesting. You could use Abrade to destroy Amulet of Vigor. It is not particularly efficient or strong at doing that, so it is unclear how valuable that is. Similarly, with Engineered Explosives, I've had opponents do that against me, and I've seen players go with that line of reasoning to destroy Amulets of Vigors with explosives, but
What about like
unclear
Borrower?
how
Is that
powerful.
just too niche an effect? The bounce effect? Is it going to slow them down a turn, but then puts us back a turn? Like, do you like that or not? Is it just not a good card in this matchup?
It's not great for sure. But
Situational, I guess.
Titans can be a bit scary when, especially if Amulet gets amulets, the namesake amulets into play, then suddenly bouncing creatures is kind of a losing proposition because their ETB triggers are gonna re-trigger, so it's a pretty niche card. Although a free one flyer can be not too bad, it is free mana and not particularly efficient, so it's not a card I'm excited to have in my post-board deck against
Well,
Amulet.
they are going to be on the play for game number 3, so it's going to play into their advantage. They'll be able to get like a Ragavan or a Dragon Rage Channeler down early. We're going to go down to that. Remember, this is game number 3. Both players are at 1 apiece. Let's see the opening hands. Just waiting for both players to draw them. If you just tune in, welcome. This is the Mana Trader series. This has got 139 players all battling out in Modern today. 8 rounds of it, in fact. We are midway through round number 5, and tomorrow we'll be bringing you the top 8. So make sure you hit the follow button, stay up to date on everything Mana Traders moving forward. These are the opening hands. We see Amulet, Untapped Land, and a couple of, an Abundant Grazer, Bounce Land, etc. In my theory, I think that's a playable hand, but I'm going to let you comment on that.
Yeah, we see Kogla and Idaro showing up. It's pretty funny to see that card actually in hand. Mikosiv Garden's Amulet, Arboreal Grace. This is actually a pretty great hand
I
for
must say, it looks pretty good to me. But on the other side, the Izzet Merc type player doesn't look like that's a keepable hand to me. Potentially, if that was a dual land and I could cast my Ragavan and hold up, Spell Snare, Consider, etc. I don't know if I like the one land just and it being an island here.
Spell Snare could be pretty dangerous because some players do like to board out Explore on the basis of that being just kind of the weakest card in the Amulet deck. So it is possible that Victor's deck literally has no targets for Spell Snare in it.
Yeah, looking in the sideboard, there is no 2-drops. It is literally for Explore, and that is it. So, and it is open deck list, so they're aware of that. So they're taking the hedge that they kept them in.
Yeah,
Did we
yeah.
see one game 2 then? I can't remember. I think we might have.
I don't think so. No,
Maybe I'm
there was
thinking
no
of game
explores.
1.
Yeah, game one was the explore game. Much
Well,
better of a hand, but not
still a
particularly.
one-lander, but Triple Dragon's Chandler can close this game out real quickly. Maybe you tap the top of your deck, hit the Murktide back, tap the top of your deck, and hope for the best.
Triple channeler can close the game, but to an extent, because they really can't if you don't have spells to actually
Yeah,
turn on
true.
the delirium.
So where
On
do you
top
sit
of
on this
that,
one? Do you think you'd keep this on the play at 6, or do you think you go down to 5? Well, they've answered their question, but what would you have done?
it was on a draw, right?
No,
But
no,
yeah, I think
they're on the play, right? Oh no, 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 yeah,
I,
yeah, they're on the draw because obviously Amulet didn't pay for the pat trigger.
yeah. So
Ignore
although
everything
yeah,
I just said.
went to 5, and it's not an exciting hand.
All right, subtlety, not a bad one. That one could come up quite relevant. All the amulets. I don't even
The
want to know the math. Can they win from here? That's what I need to know. Like this is where things start getting crazy.
Yeah, you can just win if there is no interaction. There is the subtlety, so you can't. But you could just play Amulet, Bounce
That's
Land,
so crazy.
Razor, Bounce Land, Titan, Haste
Turn
with
2
Flash
could be
Triangle
so
twice,
explosive.
Double Strike. Yeah, that would be a turn to win if not for subtlety, which actually
Coming in
isn't.
clutch as a one-of at the sideboard.
Yeah, it isn't too bad. You can put the Titan back on the top of your deck. Next turn, you can play it into 2 mana, which is scarier, but you do have Kogla and Nidaro in your hand as a backup still if your Titan gets countered, and if it gets dressed down, you can just live with that and wait a turn.
Let's see how they want to go about it. I'm trying to. Can you talk us through how this would be a turn to win? Like what sequences would have to happen on the
So
Titan side?
the sequence would be to tap the Mycosynth Gardens, play Amulet of Vigor, then play either one of the bounce lands in hand. So let's say you play Celestial Sanctuary. You get 2 untapped triggers. So you untap it twice, you tap it for mana twice. That gives you green, white in your mana pool. You spend 1 green, leaving you with green, white in your mana pool to play an Arboliar Grazer, which puts a Celestial Sanctuary into play once again. You just bounce it back to your hand after it untapped twice. Then you add 4 more mana to your mana pool. You have a total of 7 mana. You can play your Primeval Titan, keep a white mana in your mana pool. You can find Boros Garrison and Slayer Stronghold, untap them, give your Titan +2, +0, and haste, and vigilance. Untap them again, give Titan the same abilities once again. Then you move to combat, you attack, you traditionally fetch Vesuva and not Slayer Stronghold, Sunhome. Vesuva copying Boros Garrison, untaps twice, makes 4 mana. Sunhome double strikes the Titan, and poof, that's it. It's 10 times 2, 20 damage.
Well, we're seeing it play out on screen right now. Luckily, they do have the subtlety, but we're going to consider first and put a Blood Moon into our hand. Oh, do we choose to draw that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as like a long term plan,
Okay, sure.
especially since Victor has chosen to keep the Mycosynth Gardens in play, which is really punishing against subtlety. Because that means that next turn, there's no way to cast a Titan once again. Wow. Potentially a game
Jeez.
losing mistake.
Jeez. Okay. Let's because we did have the extra bounce land in hand if we needed it to be
Yeah.
able to set up
To
next
bounce
turn.
back the Mycosynth
Oh,
Gardens
hold on a
instead.
minute. We can copy it, right? We can use the garden to copy another amulet. Oh no, no,
We
because then
can,
it doesn't.
but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
The
yeah, it
amulet
doesn't until
is
next turn.
only
We need.
when a permanent enters the battlefield tapped, so it's already entered.
Okay, this is okay. We've got a game potentially from a turn 2 win. We've got the right cards at the right time because this will. I say that we go dress down here. They don't get the extra land, but they're still in quite a good spot with a Primeval Titan in play. We untap, play
So
Blood Moon.
there's no Primeval Titan.
Oh no, no, you're right. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a hot, warm day in the UK, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? This is why we got Canister. Canister's going to carry me for the rest of the stream. That'd be great. I'm just
So
going to
yeah,
sit back
Victor
here.
actually just played turn his last land into an amulet, so now no lands, and well, all Danielakos can just go Steam Vents and Blood Moon, and then there's no mana for Victor, and it's kind of a tough situation to
This is
recover from.
mental. And there's only three and a
There is,
half minutes left on the clock for Victor.
yeah, there is a Koglan Idar in hand, which is a 4 mana way to deal with Blood Moon, but you both need a green mana and 3 other lands, which you currently don't have.
Dismember drawn for the turn. Archmage's Charm. Both players are drawing absolute bombs.
Actually, Sham after this Blood Moon looking absolutely great.
We're just
All
playing
right.
land go.
I guess Oldaniakos really doesn't have a way to pressure after this Blood Moon, so this game might not be over.
We're just going to play the Ragavan out here. I suppose that opens up potentially if we draw a lightning bolt moving forward, seeing if they're still in the deck. The explorers are still in the deck. So that
It's
spell
the
snare
Explode.
is live.
Yeah, the spell snare is live. Now I want this game to go in a direction where Explode gets spell snare, just to see that.
Dragon Rage Chandler does come down here.
So
Is there a
can
point
Victor
where we're
draw
going
a forest?
to Kevin of Souls? How's that one?
It's
But even
not
like
so
dress
great.
down here, do you dress down just to get the trigger, draw another card, get another card type in the graveyard? I guess the answer is
Some
no,
point,
but
maybe, but
well, we drew
very much.
Bauble, it's fine. This will probably do the rest. We've got creature spell. Yeah, this is going to turn Delirium on, but then this member's going to get rid of that. Still get the trigger. Decide if we want to keep that top card. Not it is a Misty Rainforest. We do not want that. We're going to put that into the graveyard. Bauble. Have a look at the top card. We don't know what it is yet, but I'm sure we'll find out momentarily.
Is that a forest? I guess that is the question. It is not a forest.
Summoner's Pact.
One interesting thing to note is that Victor have chosen to play Cavern of Souls, but actually there is like a reason to hold it in your hand. Because once Cavern is in play, if it entered while Blood Moon was in play, you actually did not get to choose a creature type, so no creature type is assigned for it. So it's not really active ever.
I actually
And
quite like. I like this attack, right? And I'll tell you why. The timer is an issue of this game now. That's literally a legit win con currently. And it's at 2.5. It eats up a couple seconds every attack, every block, every damage phase, etc. End of combat, move to second main phase. It's not the best way to win. I don't encourage that way to win, but the clock is part of MTGO, right? This is part of the game. Is an added aspect to it. If your opponent is going to take longer than you to play Magic, it's going to come at a cost, and we might end up seeing it in this game. Hopefully, we don't. Hopefully, one that we do get an out-and-out winner.
I mean, at the same time, Oldaniakos did not attack with Kragavan on the previous turn, so
Yeah, and
mixing
and
it
now we
up.
decided against it as well. Maybe we're just checking and testing. Saga off the top, not what we want in the face of this Blood Moon. I don't think we have Force of Vigors in the deck or anything along those lines. We don't. We've got an Engineer Explosives. If that did come in or not, we don't know.
No, it's just a matter of drawing a forest. There's been what 3 or 4 forests in Victor's deck, I think.
I think I believe it has
Four.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 forests. So again, we're blocking. And that also takes clicks, right? Being able to click your creature, click on their creature, do the blocks. So like even F6 doesn't work to full efficiency here. We now got 8 cards in the hand, so we do have to start discarding. We did draw a Beseiju, so we are just a green mana source away from potentially, a real explosive.
You can see Victor discarded an Explorer in anticipation of the spells there. So very wise move, especially seeing that all the Nilakos is locked with just a single island. It makes so much sense.
Okay, we are down to under 2 minutes on the clock. Bauble's going to come down. Look at that top card. Really want to try and dodge these forests off the top. It's an expedition map.
Island.
Expedition map comes off the top.
Right on
So this
time.
is going to be able to get them the forest that they greatly need.
The thing is that now, if you Boseju or Kogla either the Blood Moon, then just look at Odin Ilakos' hand, right? Dressed on
Just yeah,
charm, counterspell, stacked. And you played your cavern without naming a creature type, so
and that's
you're
what you
actually
said. Maybe you're going to keep it in hand for for your when you potentially do get a forest, so you can play it the turn that you want to go off and turn off all this counter magic. But in
yeah.
fact, we're going to see. I don't even know how much mana can get generated in the next couple of turns or what's going to happen, but we're definitely going to have a battle on our hands and less than a minute and a half on the clock for Victor here. Besage you end of turn, targeting Blood Moon.
Certainly, Amulet has click intense moments where it's pretty hard to get through the
Yeah, a
entire
lot of
combo
clicks.
in just 1 minute 30 seconds. So that is also an obstacle that has to be faced.
Let's see how he's going to go about this. Obviously, we can go get ourselves a basic island here if we need to. That's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, which lines up quite nicely. It means we can cast 3 of these spells in hand. 3 of them being counter spells or even a dress down.
Mhm.
Teleria West off the top. Oh, I don't even know what math's going on right now. So it looks like we might
Well,
just be hard casting first Titan.
you cannot transmute to Larawas, so it just kind of doesn't do anything.
That's going to get
Just
counter
play Titan
spell.
into counterspell.
Saga comes down for our land for the turn.
Maybe the Saga is a win con. Actually,
Yeah.
it is not because of dress down though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good interaction of that. Good magic. Unholy Heat now off the top. Do we use this to start connecting with Ragavan, or are we just going to save this for Titans? Looks like we're going to get rid of this Abominable Grazer. We get to, after, I don't know, 17 gazillion turns, get to connect with it. They're going to say, no, we're going to dismember it instead. So now you can't use it. They did it just before combat, like you should, in case there's any other Ragavans in hand, which we do see there is. Did we
Right.
just
Just be sure not to dismember Ragavan after blocks have been declared, or rather after no blocks have been declared, because you might run into Ninja of Deep Hours, and that would be disastrous.
Okay, Titan number 2. Counterspell number 2. Really getting punished for that Cavern of Souls play.
Yeah.
Here comes the Teleria West. It's going to come in and tap 3 times, generate free blue mana. We have double Summoner's Pact in hand.
I guess we can Sounders Pact get under Titan, right? Why not?
Well, it looks like that's where we're going to go with this. So are we letting the Summoner's Pacts resolve here?
Yeah, no reason not to. There is no land drop.
40 seconds on the clock.
Cavern is not coming, so you just Archmage's Charm the Titan, counter it.
Counter
After
that
which
Titan.
you have a dress down to survive one more turn almost assuredly. Opponent has to pay for the pact, and also your opponent has to beat you in 34 seconds, which is
It's
probably
going to be
gonna be way
a
too
lot of
hard.
clicks. Ragavan's going to connect. We're going to get the top card. It is an Unbundled Grazer. Doesn't really matter. I suppose you can cast it again to eat up more seconds on the clock. I think that's where we're going with this now. I generally think this is a clock game, unfortunately. But,
There's no reason not to cast the Grazer. It might be
no.
useful. Like don't need the treasure.
We're going to pay for this Summer's Pact. We're going to have the Saga trigger on the stack. 22 seconds. Summoner's Pact
Or
cast.
Amulet, yeah.
Primeval Titan. We might be able to. It's 15 seconds. If they can get an attack. Might just be too
No,
many clicks here.
it's too late. It's
Coming
all.
down. Primeval Titan. Search triggers.
There's
Dress
also the
down.
dress down, so there's no trigger. So actually, that's very kind of Danilakos to spare Victor having to go through the triggers here. But
Oh, yeah. This iteration is going to be it.
Yeah, we just draw an iteration. We find a Mishra's Bubble, Ledger Shredder.
Like you can even attack with the Grazer here, right? Just to get the extra couple of seconds out of your opponent. I think we are
Sure.
going to be going that route.
Spellsnare.
Dragon's Channel in Exile. We're going to cast that one. Still got this Ledger Shredder in hand. Baubles going to come down. We get to look at the top card. We've got to pay for our Summons Pact and Upkeep. That's going to eat a couple more seconds of this clock. I'm not saying it's not doable. It's just going to be extremely hard. Crazier things have happened in Magic. Ledger, just get all the blockers down. I'm surprised we're not playing a Ragavan here. Maybe we're going to go play it in our second main phase. No, we're not. Bauble trigger. 4 seconds on the clock. You don't like to see it, but is Jen a win con in Magic the Gathering online? And unfortunately for them, the Titan player just took a little bit too long. 25 minutes was not enough for them. But congratulations, you still see Merkside undefeated.
Yeah.
It's part of the game, right? It's part of the game, but it was did keep me on the edge of my seat. Like I was like, oh, we're gonna get back into this. Oh, we've drawn that away to get the forest. Forest beside you opens up our hands.
The funny thing is that even if Victor would get to attack with the Primal Titan on the last turn, that does not even win the game because the Titan would produce a lot of mana, but there's no Dryad of the Elysian Grove, and there is no way to actually produce enough power in combat from just one Titan and no relevant other cards in hand at that moment. So the game would still go on. It was not just a matter of timing out in here, although certainly it played a role.
Unfortunately for them, we all learned a lesson from it. Make sure you keep an eye on that clock and you utilize it to the best of your ability. But on that one, that is going to be it for this round. So we'll be back with round number 6 super shortly. We're going to have a little break and we'll be back soon. So make sure you stick around. See you soon. Welcome back to the Mana Trader Series, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as the Will Hall EXP, and I'm joined by the phenomenal control player, Kanister MTG, and we've been bringing you modern action all weekend long. We are in round number 6, so we've got 3 more rounds left before we cut to that top 8, but that's going to happen tomorrow. So make sure you click that follow button and stay tuned so you get the notification when that goes live tomorrow. We're going to move into, we've got a little bit of time to kill while we got the players kind of getting their pairings and going into the game, and we sort the cameras and stuff out. We'll see if we can get the meta game up. How did we start this weekend? 139 players. What decks did they bring? This is the breakdown. Most played deck of the weekend, Rhinos and Creativity. Not really a shock there from anybody, in my opinion. I think that both decks are very powerful in what they do, very hard to playing against. What about we haven't seen Rakdos doing quite well. Obviously, we've seen Murktide doing quite well in the hands of one of our players. But going into mid-range Hammer Time, haven't seen that being beaten up a performance. Did you kind of expect that this metagame, Canisto, or do you think it's a bit of a shock?
I think it's about to be expected in general. It does all seem to make sense.
Okay.
Modern is modern. There is always a good variety of decks. There's always every single time the other category is going to dwarf the rest of the tournament still with its size, right? As we see so many one-off decks that show up in the tournament in lower numbers. So
everyone's got a pet deck, right? In modern, obviously, I'm really upset that no one brought Infect this weekend. So shame on you all for not bringing it. But some people did bring Living End. We saw that one doing quite well, and I think there is one currently undefeated player on Living End that we might be seeing in our feature match. But we'll go to the second page, see what else people brought. These aren't all the decks that everyone had. 4 5-color Omnath. We've got a new card in Nissa. We've seen it, it kind of picks up a bit of the hate though, right? All these blood moons floating around, playing in 4 or 5 colors, you kind of get the hate that everyone's bringing for these creativity decks. Then Hardened Scales. I don't think Hardened Scales is doing too well. Actually, that's a lie. We do have a 4-1 player currently on Hardened Scales. So, it's not all doom and gloom. A lot of math, all you math nerds out there that like it. What else have we got half decent going on? It looks like it's generic Ragavans doing quite well at 4-1. There is a Hammer Time doing Form 1. Okay, there's quite a lot of decks going Form 1. There's still some champions out there. A couple of Yawgmoths doing well. Death Shadows doing quite well. There's a Mill 4 in 1 as well. So, still a lot of
Mel had a
players
pretty
and
rough
decks
weekend.
in these tournaments. Say that again, sorry.
I was saying that Mill had a pretty rough weekend at the Mox the
Yeah.
last weekend.
Wasn't like
although
loads of people just playing.
That of course was like a pretty small metagame and like different type of scenarios. It is a 8-person only tournament. That
Ran
said,
on
right now,
MTGO of all things.
yeah, exactly. That said, right now we're gonna be watching Guard Hero against Magic of Player 1, Creativity against Living, and as we've been saying, change the equation, notably just a straight up counterspell against Living End, which is very nice.
Is one deck particularly favored in this, or does things like Spell Pierce change the equation really mean that they can't like here they could be tapping out on turn 2, right? But if they tap out on turn 3 and then we go to turn they tap out on turn 2 and then we go to Magic of Player 1's turn and he has 3 mana, he potentially can just straight up out the gates cast Living End, done. Or are they going to try and wait until they go Creativity, get an Archon on the battlefield, and then do it? And I suppose the second part to that question is there a way for them to get Archon into their graveyard already and kind of play into the Living End's game plan?
It's a multi-layered question and a pretty complicated one, but
I'm very good at them. I love throwing the hard, complicated ones at you.
something that happens relatively often in Creativity against Living End is if Creativity gets to keep a 7-card hand on the draw with an Archon of Cruelty, often what you'll see is just turn 1, draw, all right, 8 cards, clean up, discard Archon, and then Living End has to deal with it. It's much harder to cast a profitable Living End when your opponent gets to return a card as powerful as Archon of Cruelty, and oftentimes they also get to attack with it first before you get to attack with your creatures, so that's something that can happen, and certainly is a play to look out for. That said, generally speaking, I think Living End is typically slightly ahead in the matchup, although the exact deck lists matter a lot, and the specifics can change quite a bit. As you said, they could change the equation and change the equation and already been discarded, so that might not save the creativity player in this game, but certainly spell pierces and then like post-board hate cards against Cascade can be of much help.
There are 4
Game
main
1,
deck spell pierces in this list as well. I'm having a quick little look at it all.
yeah.
Kind of what you'd expect, except for in the sideboard we've got an Elishnorn and an Emrakul if you wanted to mix up our creativity targets.
Yeah, it doesn't do too much against Living End. You're probably not interested in those alternative threats in this matchup. But yeah, game
Do you know
1, I would
what is good
say
in
I would
Magic?
bet my money on creativity.
Do you know what is good in Magic is lands. If you can hit your land drops, it's pretty good. And on one side, Red and 6 is going to do that all day long. On the other side, we're kind of stuck here. We've been stuck on one land for a couple of turns now. We do have our cyclers, so the odds on us being able to potentially cycle into our second land drop for the game would be kind of high, but it's not looking too good for them right now.
Yeah, it is true that sometimes you keep a one lander and then you never get out of it. So certainly a very enticing prospect in Living End. You see your hand, you think, I can cycle so many times. I'll for sure draw a second land. It's like worth keeping. And then sometimes you get punished because you can never escape the bottleneck of having just one in play. But I think the play that Guard Hero should be looking for right now is trying to get to 8 cards and dropping this Archon of Cruelty into the graveyard. Thanks to Ren and 6, it's actually doable, and just having that backup Archon in the graveyard is gonna go a long way at making sure that it's not trivial to lose even if your opponent claws back out of their mana screw and gets to participate in the game and get back with
We've also got
with
things
two lands
like
to
Fable
trade.
the Mirror Breaker, right? Like that's another way for us to ditch the Archon and put it into the graveyard.
For sure.
Also,
Yeah.
also looking like they got main deck to fairies, free main deck to fairies. This is game one, so potentially if that comes down, they might just scoop them up there and then. But until one of those those sort of big powerhouse plays happen, I think we're still going to see a game. We're still going to see the living end player just cycle one a turn until they get their land. They're not out of this game, and we spoke about how this can just be a one hit sort of combo. Enough cards in their graveyard, end of turn, they resolve a living end, and it's just GG's. So I don't blame him for
Yeah.
like keeping going. It's probably just frustrating more than anything, right?
Certainly. That is like probably what Magic of Player is doing right now. Um,
Might be some
lamenting.
double
And,
queuing going on as well. We're either that or
I
we're
thought,
really
I thought,
deciding which land drop to hit.
yeah, I was assuming that it's lamenting that there's no second land inside, but maybe your answer is closer to reality.
It is a Magic Online. This does happen, but we've seen the clock come into effect in the last round, so it's not free. Yeah, you can try and win all these events and generate, but there's a clock in Magic, and this is the reason for it. At the end of the day, right? There's nothing more. Well, there's probably a lot more frustrating, but it is really frustrating when you play against someone who I've got 15 minutes left on the clock and they're in the last like 2 or 3 minutes. You're like, come on. It's a big debated topic in Magic, and I know I'm fully aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it also means that we have to stall continuously by talking, about random subjects until this happens. So thanks for putting us on the edge of our seats, making sure we have to try and find things to talk about. Okay, let's talk about the icons or the symbols. I don't know, the little pictures that you get to choose. One of the few customable things that you get to change about your appearance on MTGO. What is yours? What card choice do you use for yours?
Are you asking about the Magic Online avatars? The
Yes, the avatars.
Yeah. So well, my favorite. Those who watch my stream should know that, but my favorite one is the tiger one. There is a zodiac tiger avatar. It has a really derpy look on its face. It's kind of look. It looks a little bit off, like kind of a little bit uncanny, which makes me love it, and I just sport it for forever. It's really
Has
my
it
top
always
choice.
been that, or did it take you a while to get to find that one?
It did take me a while to get to that. I think before that, I mostly used the default avatar, which was Birds of Paradise. And
Classic All Star.
yeah, just kind of embracing the like newbie avatar vibe. I was like, yeah, I guess like I played for a few years already, but I'm still partial to the Bird of Paradise. So
Okay, we did see
that's that's been my that's been my story.
we did see
What
the
about
symbol
you,
code
Will?
there of disconnecting. Mine is Demi Lich. The
Damn.
new one, the all four mana cost one, because I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. Which anybody
Mm,
that's ever seen me cast something knows. Every single broadcast, I will mention Dungeons and Dragons at some point. But you can't blame me. There's literally a Dungeons and Dragons set, and some of the cards are really playable in multiple formats. So I get to mention it quite a lot. And a Demi Lich is pretty powerful in Dungeons and Dragons. They're not quite as powerful as a Lich, but like I always liked that look on it and how they portrayed it. I don't even know who the artist was on it, but shout out to them.
mm.
So that's how I like to go about it. There we go. We get
I
it on the
ha-
screen for you.
so
It's like
for your D&D adventures, well,
it
did
is.
you role play as a demi-lich, or
No,
is
so
it
this is
a
like
different
it's one
kind
of
of
the
management?
hardest creatures that you can have to play against. So you got to be pretty high level to
Mm,
go against the Lich. Lich is a undead wizard because wizards just want to like learn and grow and become more and more powerful. But normally there's a lifespan, right? They're mortal. So what they do is they make themselves immortal so they can keep studying to the end of time. But unfortunately, that kind of comes with the downside of you turn dead and semi-evil, so you don't do it. And demi
mm,
liches have like they put the soul in these things, so this is actually the quickest way to kill a lich is destroying its like avatar, so to speak. People in chat probably tuning that right now, but if you're not and you're into Dungeons and Dragons, let me know which character class you like to play. I'm a big fan of a paladin. It's like they're like the goody two shoes, like holy warrior, full plate, big sword, that sort of type
so
of
let me
things.
clarify. you are partial to the damage avatar because of your own desire of knowledge and unending pursuit of knowledge, or is that because
Um,
it just reminds you of D&D, which you like?
it reminds me of D&D that I like, and it's the only avatar I opened that was out of the D&D stuff. So, and plus,
That's
it's
fair.
pretty
That's
cool. Look,
fair.
it's a skull with like crystal eyes and crystal
No,
teeth.
no, that's a great reason. I'm just
Yeah,
making sure.
yeah. Just making sure you're all aware there. Have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons yourself?
I never had an experience with that. I never really got into that, and I didn't really understand the appeal of tabletop RPGs, but I appreciate people who can get passionate about it.
Oh, I've done it for over 20 years now. I love it. I so I can't ask you what class you would play, but if I had to pick a class for you, and this is for only people that play Dungeons and Dragons, where even have an idea what I'm talking about, I feel like I'd go with a bard. A bard is
But
like obviously you know what a bard is, right? Person that plays like a flute or a fiddle or whatever, but you
yeah,
generate morale to everybody. And you're kind of a little bit sneaky, a little bit. You're all right with a weapon. You can cast some spells here and there, but you play your musical instruments and you give morale to everybody. I feel like that's what you do. It's kind of like a streamer thing, right? Like people watch you for morale. So I think you'd be quite good as a bard. If anyone's an
yeah,
artist in chat and you want to try and make that into a token, I'll happily buy it from you. A bit of canister face on a, I don't know, like a Frodo Baggins type type size character on top of a table, singing with a pint and a flute. I'll happily buy that card. I'm all over that.
it's basically the same thing. Streaming, barding, just
Yeah,
like different times and circumstances. So yeah.
but it's also political, right? I don't think I could call you a thief because like a rogue. I don't think you're that type of place. I wouldn't say that you're a barbarian because they're like very aggressive and you're very placid and
That could
nice.
be also considered an insult
Oh, hold on a minute.
in some ways.
Obviously, okay, I take back the whole bard thing. Obviously, 100%, you would be a wizard. And on that one, it looks like we've got the game's ended because we took more than 5 minutes to take our turn. I think a
Yeah,
mixture of
unfortunately.
disconnects there, habit. Unfortunately, for them, for living end player. So we're going to move back to the booth while we try and pick ourselves another backup feature match. Obviously, luckily that happened quite early, so there'll be quite a few of them for us to pick from. I think there's going to be one more pair that are 5-0 that maybe we can move across Asian. Is that right? I think it's Murktide creativity by looking at the standings. But welcome everybody while you're here. I know you all wanting it, and I know you're looking for it. And if you just tuned in, you're not going to know what's going on. But for the whole stream, we've been trying to do a virtual high five, me and Canister, and we haven't fully achieved it yet. So let's give it one more go. Right, let's try. 3, 2, 1. It's like you just patting me on the head. We'll get there though, chat. Don't you worry. We've got a couple more rounds of Magic today, and a whole day of it tomorrow. We're all good. So I think we're just
That being said, it's fairly sad to see a match at a high score end up with a disconnection of a player and timing out in that way. But unfortunately, limitations of hardware and software do happen and
yeah.
are hard to avoid.
But we get to jump in on this one. We get to see our Is It Merkside player that we haven't actually seen lose yet, playing kind of in a bit of a bad situation here by the looks of it. Just one card in hand and a Ragavan on the board, staring down a Flip Fable, the Treasure Token, and 3 cards in hand. So we'll do what they need to do to survive here. Maybe we've got creativity in hand and we're just going to finish with an Archon.
Or
No,
just
we're
a
going to
bit.
pick. Here's another Fable coming down, leaving lethal on the battlefield.
Well, the hand is an Archon and a Bolt, so I guess
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna
Okay,
be
so
pretty hard to
play around the
to
lightning bolt. And yeah, okay, cool. Well, they managed to take down game one creativity there. Obviously, it looks like things didn't quite go the way or get the value they wanted, but we can get the sideboards up. It looks like they drew a land for the turn, just showing us all there. Okay, we got Daniel's sideboard here. So this is that we have not seen them lose yet. This is the Is It Murktide deck they chose to bring this weekend. Anything, obviously, we know creativity is going to be quite a represented deck, so they must have tailored their sideboard a little bit towards it. But this has got a lot of one-offs, so I think they're more tailoring towards the open deck list side of this tournament. So anything in here you would like to bring in this matchup?
Blood Moon comes to mind, Engineered Explosives, which we discussed before. There is no Force of Negation. I really liked how Force of Negation looked out of Brad's deck.
Hmm.
This is creativity. So there was like maybe a little bit less of a need for engineered explosives in Brad's deck, although we did see him bring it in nonetheless. So uh, I suspect that old Danielakos will bring engineered explosives as a way to stop creativity from happening. Flusterstorm, maybe Mystical Dispute, maybe Brazen Borrower could also join the deck, and we might see less Ragavans, maybe no Dress Down not very good, less Lightning Bolt or Unholy Heat post board. That's probably going to be the changes to the deck.
I'm just going to get out their deck lists a second so we can have a good look what is in them. But it all makes sense. And we spoke about it earlier on, but we'll speak about it again just in case people are tuning in. It's an open deck list tournament. So how much of an advantage is it having all these one-offs and making your opponent think about what you could possibly have in hand instead of just generically having 3 mystical disputes or something?
Well, they're great. Like, you just look at his deck list and you're like, wow, Fury, Subtlety, Seasoned Pyromancer, Brazen Borrower. They could have anything. How do I play around all of those things? And the answer is, well, to some extent you can, but you're heavily limited in that because there's just so many options. If the deck list would be just a simple, let's say, 4 Blood Moon, 4 Fury, 4 Subtlety, 3 Dispute, it's much easier to play around a sideboard like this because your opponent could have just a much narrower range of effects at any given time. So certainly there is value towards splitting your similar yet slightly different effects in open decklist tournaments like this one.
And we do see the I'm going to say it's the card of the tournament, Spell Snare, in this list. Seeing at the amount of options that they've got here, we've got some red and sixes it can catch, iterations that it can catch. And then out the signboard, so we've got change equations if we really wanted to go that way, hallowed moonlights. Not the old all star it used to be, but I think they finished up their sideboarding, so we're going to jump straight in here. Creativity is a game up, but do not rule out a Erectile player. They are currently undefeated every round up to here. They are both at 5-0, having a great shot at getting themselves into day number 2, into that top 8 and battling it all out. To see, realistically, you want to be top 2, right? You want an invite to that end of year $25,000 tournament.
For sure.
Let's see, looking at the opening hands, deciding if they want to keep right now. Let's have a little. Hopefully, we've got no more disconnects.
Well, that definitely would be awkward to catch 2 in a row, but
Well,
we see players drawing their opening hands. All right.
lucky for you, Kanister. If they do disconnect, I've got loads more D&D stuff I could talk about. So it's in everyone's favor that these games do take apart. Otherwise, I'm going to be telling you.
It's in everyone's best interest, yeah. At least to the
Right.
players.
Okay, right. So obviously, for people just tuning in or even watching, this is on a 7-minute delay. So we can't really interact with you with chat straight away. But now we're starting to get to the. I can see we've got to the point in the stream where the D&D talk's coming up. People are saying that you'd be a monk in D&D. I don't see it, but apparently you'd be a monk.
It's hard for me to relate, as once again I do not know the.
A monk in D&D is literally like a monk in real life. I would say you're literally going to be a religious person that's really good at martial arts. That might be stereotypical, in it, but slimming it down, that's what it is.
I'm not sure if I would vibe with that then.
Okay.
But to speak of players opening hands, like we see that Ordain Lakos has a 1-lander. That's kinda nice though if it works out. So I don't mind keeping that. You go turn 1 Ragavan, Scalding turn Ragavan, and then next turn you can keep up Spell Pierce, be ready to counter your opponent's Ren 6, which is normally the Scourge of Ragavan, kinda. And
Yes.
of course, the hand can backfire if May's hand contains something as simple as a lightning bolt, but luckily for Ordinary Lakos, there is nothing like that, and the Ragavan is just gonna put a ton of pressure, and it's gonna be backed by Spell, Pierce, Counterspell, Archmage's Charm. It's gonna be a nightmare to deal with.
So yeah, I'm looking at that. There was 8 1-mana answers to answer this Ragavan on turn 1, 4 lightning bolts, 2 prismatic endings, but none of them are in hand. and we are going to get to untap with all this counter magic. Obviously, running 6 would be pretty ideal to try and deal with this Ragavan. Don't think it's going to resolve, especially like looking at this hand here. So maybe we don't actually play it on turn 2. Maybe we look to play it on turn 3 with Spell Pierce backup, but then that means another Ragavan will connect. Pretty hard to move forward from this. Ideally, we want to see a land here. And iteration. That might let us find the land.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't really want to cast it just yet.
A red and
You're
6 would be
becoming
good here, wait.
more content playing a spell piece because you kind of don't need to risk. If you see that Ragavan is hitting your opponent, you don't need to risk it on the iteration, and it would play really badly into these spell pieces, which for us, of course, are a phase up, but at the same time, from Odanilakos' perspective, you see that Ragavan turn 1 survived, so you expect your opponent to have something in their hand. If they don't have Ragavan removal, then they probably very well might have Spell Pierce, which is a card that they play many copies of.
So you basically you'd value keeping up your interaction, your counter magic over trying to hit your second land drop in this
Yeah,
situation.
I think so. It does not seem of utmost importance to hit the second land just right now, straight now. You can wait. You can afford to wait.
Oh,
Very.
oh.
You
Okay,
don't get to cast it.
no, I say it's off the top of the deck. It's not as backbreaking as we've seen it in the against the blue-white control player.
It's actually
But
funny because if Odanilakos had a land and hit the Teferi and was like, oh, Teferi, that's so good, I'll cast it, then he could get punished really badly by Spell Pierce at Teferi and tap Ren minus on Ragavan. But thankfully for Odanilakos, there's no second land, so there's no risk of that happening, I guess.
we're just going to play the Scalding Tarn here, leave up this counter magic. A lot of counter magic for both players. Double Spell Pierce and change the equation versus Archmage's Charm, Counter Spell, and Spell Pierce. Another iteration off the top for the Ragavan. But I think because we didn't cast it last time digging for it, we're probably not going to do it this turn. We shall see. Off the top is a Bloodstained Mire. Looks like we are going to go digging for it. Do you like fighting over this? Or, yeah, okay, we're fighting for this. So Spell Pierce here. Spell Pierce is Spell Pierce.
Oh, wow.
Probably Spell Pierce to Spell Pierce.
That worked out really badly for Odanilakos.
Oh, okay, interesting. Oh, okay, but it's still in the stack, sure.
If you comment the Spell Pierce, then you know that you're accepting that you're not gonna resolve. You're gonna let your opponent resolve whatever they play on the next turn, be it Fable, Teferi, Ren. But
Yeah,
this
this is going
actually
to be.
worked out pretty decently. The double spell piece actually stole the play back, and now you can fetch Stomping Grounds, Ren, Ping, the Ragavan, and
This
actually
is what I
be
mean about like last turn. Like, I think I would have, if I didn't do it the turn before, I don't think I would have done it that turn. I think I would have just been like, cool, I've got my Ragavan, I've got my counter magic, I'm going to hold it up. But like the worst case scenario literally
I
happened,
think there
right?
was a really strong argument for holding the counter magic and just not casting the iteration and waiting a little bit. As long as you keep hitting with Ragavan, it's good for you. It's like you're hitting your land drops, you're getting the treasures, sort of.
So we're just going to play the Fable, the Mirror Breaker. Super powerful free drop. Enchantment, Saga, flips into a Kiki Jiki effect, brings along itself a 2/2 Goblin Shaman token, which also makes tokens, which is exactly what we want to be doing on the creativity side. We need targets for when we do eventually draw these creativities and if they resolve. Uphill battle at the minute, I think, for Is It Murktide. This we had a game plan. It didn't really go to plan for us, let's be honest. And then there's a lightning bolt off the top. Are we going to go after the token or the Ren 6? We're just going to point that out the Ren 6. Pretty rough, especially with these multiple Fables. Fables in multiples are so good.
It is, yeah, especially against players who control only a single land.
We even drew another land. We could literally play double Fable this turn if we wanted to. Probably not the best play though, right? Probably leaving up some sort of counter magic might be ideal.
Yeah. Choosing to discard the Scouting Town makes sense. You can just keep change the equation if you want to. You can also just attack with your Goblin Shamans, make enough treasures to play your Archon of Cruelty eventually.
I was about to say next turn, if we hit a land, bear in mind we've got 3 draws at it if we want to. We can actually hard cast the Archon after attacking with our 2 Goblin Shaman tokens.
That's true.
Dress down the draw. Still no land. Weird Foothills off the top. That's going to give us our 8th mana if we need it.
All right, are we playing the Archon? I think it's a good play.
Like, what?
Yep.
I suppose they've got Delirium. If they have maybe you wait a turn because
I mean,
then you
even
can
if
at
they
least
don't
copy
have
it.
Delirium, then so what, right? Your opponent is so far behind, and like you still have 8 power on the battlefield. Even if you just disregard the abilities of your Kikis, actually 9 power because you will also fetch a dwarf. So I think you just assuredly go for it and play an Archon.
Looks like they're playing fast. Maybe this is the route that they're going. Life total is only at 7 though. And here comes Archon. Going to drop us back up to 10. Drop our opponent to 8. It's going to let them discard. We're going to draw a card, and it's going to get the concession there. Creativity is going to go to 6 and 0. Oh, yeah, that's good. We're going to move back to us here while Adrian's going to try and source us another feature match to show you all. Welcome back. If you just tune in, 139 players turn up this weekend in the Mad Train Series to battle it all out. The format is modern. My name is Will. That's Kanister MTG, not like he needs any introduction whatsoever. And we've been giving you modern action all weekend long. Today's just 8 rounds of Swiss. Tomorrow we come back with the cut to top 8. So we will see which 8 players manage to, get there. Who's going to be battling out to try and get those 2 qualification slots to the $25,000 tournament at the end of the year. It's not all doom and gloom though. If you're from 3rd to 8th place, you still get to win yourself a nice chunk of money. And if they're a Mantra subscriber, they get 10 times bonus on whatever they win, which is,
So
in
much.
itself, it's a lot of money, right? It's a good weekend when you start winning that. And you get points, which adds up to the end of year season. There's lots of multiple ways to get to this $25,000 tournament at the end of the year. One of them is by qualifying in the Swiss to qualify for this tournament this weekend. Everyone's been playing for the last 2 or 3 weeks trying to get there, and there's a leaderboard. And the top 2 people, when we called end to it, got themselves invites. So congratulations to those 2. But there's 2 more slots this weekend that everyone's battling out for, which we'll find out tomorrow. And if you do the math throughout the whole year, that's only 40 people. Where's the other 8 coming from? Well, everyone that comes between 3rd and 8th in a tournament will get themselves points. If you come 3rd in the tournament, you get 8 points. Come 4th, you get 7 points. All the way down to 8th place that gets 3 points. And they add up over the course of, 10, 11 months playing until we get to December. And then there's this extra leaderboard. On that leaderboard, the top 8 players are all going to get invites as well. So it encourages you all to play. You don't have to win these events to get there, just grinding them out. You can't, win them all, unfortunately, unless your name's Nathan Sawyer. Apparently that lad can win them all. But if you're more human like me, you need to, get a few games in, try and spike a tournament, get those points, and keep going. So it's all to play for. And it's free. It's literally free to play in these events. You don't need to be a Managed Rise subscriber. You just need to turn up and play in these events. Obviously, you get more money if you do, and it's more beneficial for you, but you don't have to. It's open to everybody. Everyone can have fun in these. It's a different format as well every single month. So this month is Modern. I believe next month is Pioneer. I'm waiting for Adrian to confirm that. Next month is Pioneer. So if you're a Pioneer fan, maybe next month's for you. Make sure you check it all out. Go to the Mad Traders website. There'll be links in the chat, links on the website. Go and have a look. Moving to this one, looks like we've got Mill versus Rhinos, I want to say.
It appears to be Living End.
Oh, is it Living End? Okay, yeah, so there's a grief in hand, yeah. Living End. How does okay, this is a matchup and a half. How does this work normally? I feel like them filling my graveyard up is pretty good for me.
It's not a matchup I played often, but it does cut both ways. While Mill fills your graveyard, it's also full of effects like extirpate and surgical extraction, so you often just end up with your Living End extracted. It hasn't happened this game yet, it seems, but what is funny though is this Crypt Incursion.
I was about to say Crypt Incursion in hand. That's a pretty good one in response to a Living End.
Yeah, currently Shiki is just on 6 life points, but after this Crypt Incursion is gonna resolve, I don't even know. There's 35 cards in the graveyard, that's so much, so many.
35 cards. Every creature in it, I believe you gain 3 life for. There's
Yeah,
one of
that's
in. It's a one of in the sideboard. Exile all creature cards from target player's graveyard. You gain 3 life for each card exiled this way. Jeez.
Probably not gonna resolve between the double force and the grief. So at least there is that.
How many cards we've got? We've got 13 cards left, and there's an archive trap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, grief is going to come down.
Makes sense to cast the grief.
Gonna resolve.
That's
It takes
probably
the.
gonna. It's probably gonna prompt some kind of a response right here, which is probably gonna be casting Crypt Incursion, right? I can't imagine.
Yeah, I imagine it's Crypt Incursion, Hardcast, Force of Negation, untap. Like, I think we've got the tools to win. It just depends on if the mill player's got the cards on top of their deck to potentially get the last. There's only 13 cards, right? We are one archive trap away. Even though the archive trap in hand's probably going to get taken. Interesting game.
I'm not sure the tools are there. I guess the question is, are there any Force of Negations in the graveyard? And the answer would be yes. I can spot one right here.
Oh, okay. So you think we do this in response to the force?
In response to the grief, I guess.
Sorry, yeah,
Extirpate
sorry.
has the split second ability, so you get to do it immediately. The other thing is though, do we have an extra swamp? And the answer is probably no. Nobody would play 3 swamps. Which actually cuts off the extirpate lines.
Looks like extirpate's out the sideboard here.
Because we would need to fetch an untapped land, which we can't because of the life point situation. So we cannot extirpate fossil negations before we try to cast Crypt Incursion, which I think is what would be the best thing to do if it was an available line. And now we're going to see the hand probably get rid of Archive Trap, right? Because
I wonder if we had to fire that encryption off there. Because like, what if we untap, we get rid of force negation, then we just archive trap? Like, I think maybe we could have held that there.
Well, it's a decision for Winged Hussar. You can take either Extirpate or Archive Trap, so one of them is going to be gone for sure. So you can, after the Grief, there is not going to be Extirpate and Archive Trap, so...
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we've got the option of casting them, where the way it's played out now is we don't have that option.
Mm-hmm.
We're just left with this.
You actually probably should have taken Ensnaring Brigade. Yeah.
But okay, so yeah, we have to do it the right way. We have to try and take these force negations out, and then we need to target the force. Hopefully, snag another force on the other side, and then we can play the ensnaring bridge. Because if we do it the other way around, this ensnaring bridge is going to meet this force negation.
Yeah, but that's actually bites Winged Hussar right now, because if Winged Hussar discarded Extirpate, then you could just, your opponent has to pay mana for the Archive Trap. So if they pay mana for the Archive Trap, you can Force of Negation it. That's fine, and you end up in a situation where you have traded cards. And given that Extirpate always can trade for a Force of Negation, you just let your opponent top deck cards that cost mana that can be played. Let's say Shiki draws another Archive Trap. That also would work, right? So I think there was a little bit of a misstep, misevaluation here, maybe, unless there is some deeper context that makes
The only
me
thing I'm thinking that can get us, I say, back into this like situations if we draw an endurance. So if we go, so we're targeting the force negation, getting that out the deck. We resolve the ensnaring bridge. If we top deck an endurance and we're able to endurance ourselves and refill our library, then we've hit back things in like the Sky Turtle, which are ways for us to deal with the endurance, essentially. But at the minute, this is going to be pretty rough.
Yeah. There is a Force of Vigor in the graveyard, so not clear how many more are in the deck. Because we only see the top of the graveyard, and it's a whopping 38 cards, so it's a pretty large one.
Only 7 cards left in library.
Yeah.
Exactly where the mill player wants them to be. We don't know who's up a game yet, because obviously we jumped into this one a little bit earlier than expected. So we'll be able to find out after this game, obviously. But there is only 6 minutes on the clock for our mill player. So I'm guessing it's at least game 2, maybe potentially even game 3. Snare Bridge is going to be the last card. And then
Ensnaring Bridge.
tap and go. And we're
So
only a
another
turn away, right?
question.
They're going to draw a card, go down to 6. We play land, mill for 3. So 2 more turns. Wood of Fiddles is not the draw we're after.
Yeah, there is just
Uh,
2 draw steps. You draw 2 cards out of 6, and Windswept Heath is not it. Carlos Agent is gonna reveal the deck to us, so that is at least convenient, and you're gonna be able to take a look at that. Unless it's gonna cast a Living End, but for some reason I assume that that is not an option anymore.
it gets rid of the crab that's
Okay,
in play.
yeah,
But
but there is no Living End. Seems
no,
like
no more living
it's been
ends.
extracted earlier in the game or milled.
Also, no
There
more
is one.
relevant cards in the deck. Oh, I suppose there's
Well,
endurance.
there's one endurance. So this is basically like what the game boils down to. Can Winged Hussar
Ah, no, Field of Ruins.
go?
That's it. It's as long as they've got another basic land to go get off this Field of Ruin, right? That's double trigger, mill 6.
True, true.
Nick of Time getting that ensnaring bridge off the top, and then a way to get double trigger off this crab. Obviously, fetch line or something like that would have been able to do it. Still playing out. There's like, show me the extra land that you've got. Show me you're not playing more than 4 basics. There's the island. These are the oil slick ones. I do love them because obviously I'm a big Phyrexian fan myself. Pass the turn back, and that's going to be a game. Now let's see, is that going to be game 2 or game 3? Oh, that's
Yeah.
Matt. That's oh yeah, it's the match. Sweet. Okay, so it looks like Mill managed to take that one down, advance himself to 5-1, I believe. Congratulations to them. Not your stereotypical game, you know what I mean? Living End wants to be putting things in its graveyard. Mill also wants to put things in your graveyard, but they've got ways to interact with your graveyard at certain points. Luckily, that grief turn didn't really pan out too bad for them. I think I might have gone a little bit of a different way around it, but
Yeah,
managed to
certainly
get
we,
there.
we witnessed an interesting decision taking place. The extirpate, like leaving the extirpate actually punishing
Yeah.
Winged Hussar pretty badly and deciding the outcome of the game eventually, it seemed to me.
Yeah, well, it's exactly how it did happen, and it turned out that way. But I don't think we've got any more backup matches for you, so we are going to go to a short break. Make sure you stick around. We'll be back super shortly for more action. Round number 7 in the Mad Trader series. See you all soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mana Traders series. My name is Will Hall. That's Kanister MTG, and we're taking you through round number 7 of Modern Action this weekend. 8 rounds. We've gone through a majority of them. 2 left to go. Who is going to get into that top 8? Who's going to get into day 2? We're going to find out super shortly. There is currently only 2 undefeated players left in the field. Unfortunately, they're both on creativity, so we're not going to feature that one. We have got a good 5-1 though. It is a mono red deck, but we'll get onto that in a minute when we get down to the games. First, we're going to start off with what did I say? We're going to talk about everybody's standings. That's what I said. I was going to get up, Devon. We're going to get the standings up for you and show you what is doing well. So, as the top there, 2 creativity decks. Most played deck of this weekend in this tournament. Picks up lots of good results. Don't think it's surprising anybody there. There's our Living End player. Unfortunately for them, obviously they did pick up a game loss kind of unintentionally, but it happens. They're still in it though at 5-1. Murktide, Crashing Foothills, Murktide. Okay, we've got a 4-5 color Omnath player still up there near the top in 7th place. So we'll see if we can scroll down a little bit on the screen for that, please, Adrian. So everybody can see a little bit. They go down in 7th place. And then we've got Hardened Scales in 8th place. That one's picking up a performance, only picking up 1 loss. Going down a little bit more, we've got Murktide, more Rakdos, Creativity, and then there, number 12, Sweeps, playing mono red mid range. That's who we're going to try and get on as our feature match for this round. But speaking about players and who's doing well and whatnot, let's look at how Brad's getting on. Obviously famous for his brother Corey Baumeister, usually in my spot presenting these tournaments, but they gave him a month off, let him go and rest his vocal cords, and instead we got his brother in to be the bounty. Everybody that's got to play against him this weekend, if they defeat him, managed to get themselves a nice crisp $50 extra. He is 4-2, so he's only given away $100 so far. That's pretty good. I don't know what's the worst record a bounty's had over a weekend, Adrian. Waiting for. Oh, and so one of the bounties 0-2 dropped. So Brad's doing better than that. It's I want to know who that is. We can name and shame him later on. You think Brad's also 1-2? Okay, so he's picked up a good deck. He's doing well with it. He's he's repping. He needed something to bounce back on. But yeah, cleanly giving away $100. There's still 2 more rounds to go though, so potentially another $100 to be made by players out in the field. Get paired against Brad. Do the challenging task of beating him. You know what I mean? Remember, he is the brother of Kai Baumeister, so he's very hard to beat in Magic the Gathering. And you get yourself a clean $50. Going on to that, we've done standings. We've done the bounty. Are we ready to go down to the matches, Adrian? Okay, so we're still waiting on parents. Let's see if we can get up the prizes, maybe. What are people playing for this weekend? Lots of different ways to win money. There's one with the Swiss rounds. So everybody in the last couple of weeks trying to qualify to play for this weekend, we're battling it out. And, there's a leaderboard. Can we click on the leaderboard there for me, Adrian? That one there. So this is what they're battling out. So not only are you trying to play in this weekend's tournament, you have to qualify for it. But that in itself is a leaderboard where you can win some nice money. If you look on that screen there, whoever came first place this weekend, if they were a subscriber, got $400. If they wasn't, they got the 40. They didn't get the bonus. Same with second down to fourth, all got themselves a bit of nice cash. But mainly the top 2 players there get invites to the end of the year tournament. If we move down to the Swiss and top 8 and see what they're playing for this weekend, actually ends in tomorrow. Currently, everyone's trying to battle it out to get themselves in that top 8. But not worst case scenario, you come top 16, top 32, you do win yourself a bit of extra, credit there, $5 or $25, $50 moving forward. And if you do get in that top 8 and you are a subscriber to Mad Traders, you have the option to win $3,000 for coming in first place, as well as all the extra points that come along with it. But what is a point towards an invitation? Well, that's the one in December. That is a $25,000 tournament. This is a $10,000 tournament. That's $25,000. And there's only 4 invites every month to it. So the top 2 from the Swiss and the top 2 from this weekend's tournament, as in tomorrow in the top 8, whoever comes first and second will get their invites. But you'll notice between 3rd and 8th, it says points towards invitation. This is something else that you can grind for. So if you get a lot of good finishes, but don't actually manage to finish in the top 1 or 2, get yourself points for this leaderboard here on your screen. If we stop the count right now, those people with green ticks next to the name, they are going to get themselves invites to the end of year tournament. They'll make up numbers 41 to 48. There's a lot of people then on a lot of the same points. A lot of people on 8, a lot of people on 7, a lot of people on 6. So this is where the appearances will come in. The more appearances you have on these events, there's one every month. If you've got more appearances than someone on the same record as you on points, you will pip them out of contention. So it's worth playing in all these events. They're completely free. Yes, there's a bonus if you use Managed Trade subscriptions. You can even use this as a warm-up to potentially, one of your future tournaments. Maybe you've got a tournament coming up that you need to practice for. Mana Traders is perfect for that, being a rental service. You can just swap and change decks or cards, sideboard options, lots of options for you to move forward in. That's a lot of talking from me, Kanister. Just what to we're going to go back to us on camera. Okay, cool. Right. You get to see our beautiful faces yet again. I'm Will Hall. That's my dance partner for the weekend. Always a treat to do it with you, Kanister. And one thing we have been trying to do that we haven't done yet, we've done it multiple times, it's getting a bit awkward now, is get this high five. Okay. I feel like we can do it. And maybe I'm overshooting the mark. So one more time. Let's do it. Let's see if we can get this virtual high five. Get everyone in chat saying cringe or whatever. Whatever you want to go. Come at me, chat. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was that. I don't even know what happened there.
I might have intentionally went the wrong direction, or maybe it was just a mistake. I will let that unclear.
I was putting so much effort into that then, you know what I mean? I'm a team player, trying to do the best for everybody. Yes, Adrian, I'd love to go to the match, please. Adrian screaming in our ears, going, "What are you two doing? We're meant to be playing on a Magic tournament. Why are you doing high fives?" And we're going to go down to the match. So we will have, I believe, our mono red player on the top of your screen that sweeps. This is a very spicy, interesting deck. And they're going to be against, let's see if I can find that deck list, against Yargmoth. Oh, okay, come on. You've set me up. Let's
Yeah,
go.
so we see Drift on Yawgmoth battling against Squee on a pretty classic, frankly, Obosh deck. Although
Yes.
I don't know if the Obosh deck list can ever be so classic. Every single one of them brings a good amount of its own spice and surprising card choices. But we'll see. We'll see how it comes. 4 mana Grave of Progenitors for Blood Moons. Those are certainly tools that can
Oh, I've
make
got
it
one for
tougher
you.
for Yawgmoth.
So Yawgmoth has moved towards this kind of new-ish style of mana and cards in its deck. It's now playing a bundle Grazer as well as Gogori Rot Farm. 4 copies of that, 4 gardens, being able to make tokens. And it's kind of utilizing this effect now instead of playing things like the ignoble hierarchs, etc. Quite a different take
That's
on it. I don't
interesting.
know if I'm sold on it, but it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out.
It's an interesting build, although one place where it probably suffers a little bit is against Blood Moon, and certainly it is not great to face off against the 4 main deck Blood Moon deck,
No.
as neither Kali Garden nor Golgari Rot Farm work all that well against the Blood Moon.
Remind everybody at home why would you be playing a Bosch? What sort of abilities does that one give you, and what restrictions does it give you to being one of your companions?
The restriction of Obosh is that you can only include odd costed cards in your deck. So only cards that cost 1, 3, 5, 7, or anything else that is odd. That is an odd number. So mostly it means that you play 1 drops and 3 drops, sometimes a few fives. So it's not
Super awkward
the
there
biggest
during
restriction.
the spike field hazard after you've just 2-for-1 yourself to get rid of a 1 toughness creature. Pretty rough, but
Yeah,
we've got it for future turns if need be. Prosperous Innkeeper comes down here. Gonna make yourself a treasure token.
that does help against Blood Moon a little bit. But yeah, also there is no Blood Moon in the immediate sense, so it's not the worst.
The hand doesn't really do too much here. Yeah, we're going to play the young wolf, gain herself a life. This young wolf is probably going to eat the Spikefield Hazard, which has the added text. So it's not only doing 1 point of damage, you exile it if it dies this way.
Hmm.
Okay, we decided not. Is there a reason behind why we would do that instead of taking out the young wolf?
It's better against Eldritch Evolution for sure, and it does not give Drill any options to get to Yawgmoth for the next turn. Although you need to play pretty specifically around Eldritch Evolution to want to make that play, I think, as my instinct would be to destroy the young wolf, which could be hard to deal with later in the game.
We'll see. We're just going to put a Bosch into our hand here. We do have our 5th land drop if we need to next turn. Unfortunately, it's a legendary, but we do get to cast something like a Bosch or Seasoned Pyromancer if needs be. Young Wolf off the top, but this is where evolution can be quite good, right? We can evolution our Young Wolf. The Young Wolf will come back. We can get something like a Grist. It'd be quite good in this like kind of grindy
Chris
matchup
doesn't
that we're
sound
doing.
bad, yeah. Chris sounds okay.
That's more.
Certainly an option.
Let's see what free drops they've got in the deck to get if they want to. We've got endurances, a whole heap of 2 drops, all kind of generic from what you normally see. Grist is a free drop. Yeah, that's our only options to go here. And we're not gonna play it. We're just gonna follow out the Eldritch Evolution because if we do draw a 2 drop next turn with 2 Young Wolves out, there's a good strong chance that we can just end the game there and then.
Yeah, that would be really strong. So makes sense to save the Eldritch Evolution for a Yawgmoth, but we'll see how is it gonna play out. There's a few different plays available for Squeeps right now. Activating Blast Zone to take off the Undying shield from the Young Wolves is honestly kinda not the worst with
No, I
the
don't hate it.
structure of
Oh,
Squeeb's hand.
Especially
Playing
if
a
you wanted to,
Fury.
you could play the Fury after that as well. If you could ditch, maybe the Abosh for the Fury and just clean up the two young wolves on the other side. It's a lot of cards, though,
Yeah.
right? Or do it this way around, maybe.
Pitch Obosh, alright. So
Yeah,
just
this makes a
prioritizing
lot more
clearing
sense.
clearing the board. That does make sense. The
Instead of doing
wolves
the
come
way we
back.
said, you wouldn't be able to clear everything up this way. Yeah, we get everything off the battlefield. But there's still no pressure. This is the one problem here. We are cleaning up quite nicely for the Season Pyromancer next turn. We'll refill our hand. Where on the other side, they're just drawing land drops.
Relic of
Relic
Propagation
in the
is a pretty
main. What?
pretty
That's
annoying
a
card for Yawgmoth, right?
Yeah, that is not a card you want to be seeing on the other side of the battlefield when you play on Yawgmoth. 1, 2, 3. Play the Season Pyro. Get two fresh cards into our hand. Another Season Pyro and a Bone Crusher Giant. And now we
Just
start chipping
keep
away at the
that.
graveyard with this relic.
Yeah, I don't really love Dreev's position anymore.
Yeah, we don't have things like collective company or anything crazy like that to get us out of it. Grist is pretty good though. It's probably one of the better draws we could have, even though I don't think it's great right now.
It's certainly towards the top of the range, so it at least helps in that amount. It's gonna be pretty hard to deal with.
And that
Although not
Ragavan.
quite. Now Ragavan and Bone Crusher Giant can team up to dash, attack Greased, and care of it. So that is no longer a problem.
I was actually thinking of the line there. Maybe I even use the evolution on the token and go get myself like a wall of roots, because at least I know that that'll be able to protect and live through most things to protect my grist. Because we're kind of all in on this grist and nothing's happening now.
Yeah, that's a bit of a extreme Eldritch Evolution. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone Eldritch Evolution for a Wall of Roots before, but it didn't sound too bad.
But everything is not happening here for our Yawgmoth player. Blood Moon off the top. It's kind of all right. We've got a couple of green sources, plus we've got the treasure token, but a swamp in hand. So we can cast Yawgmoth if we do end up drawing it. Might be our best draw currently, to be fair, being a 2/4 with protection from humans. Season of Pyromancer, of course, is a human type. I'm just going to hard cast the Ragavan here.
Arboreal Grazer.
Hey, it blocks Ragavan pretty well.
That's true.
Are we going to play another land drop? Yep, we're going to play the Twilight Mire, which is just a basic forest mountain at this point. Play our basic swamp. Could we we evolution this to go and get
Well,
I
once
guess it's a
again, Grease.
grist. Yes, I think
It's not,
grist is the card you gotta get, but
but it's not too good either, right? You
no,
probably
it's
would rather wait. You block the Ragavan because it's just too valuable to block Ragavan for now. Or you don't.
we're just saying it
Just thinking.
connects. Oh, that we could have done with that one off the top. That would have been a nice creature to have with its undying effect. Very good with the evolution. We're going to play the season pyro. Oh my! Well, we're
Oh,
not. I'm going to go
no.
out and let me say we're not comboing this game.
Yeah, it does appear this way. Well, we've got this turn while the relic is
How
tapped,
about
but
realistically? Yeah, we do. Okay, grist off the
I don't
top.
think
It's
we
not
can.
bad.
Greased off the top. Alright, so we do grease, we do plus. But what does it amount to?
So we block the Ragavan. We block a season pyro. We take 6, or potentially grist is going to die.
You could also block the Bone Crusher Giant as is a 4-power creature with the insect token. So that soaks more damage, but it does not seem to be going anywhere.
It's definitely an uphill battle. Bone Crusher to draw for the turn. Okay, that's going to seal that one. This gets the insect token off the battlefield if we choose to go that route. Plus, we can play it as a 4/3. Multiple relics in hand. We could just even cycle this one if you want to. If we want to get a card deeper into our deck.
Yeah, I mean, probably the best approach for squeeps is to just keep two relics up, and how is Dreef like winning through that, right? Given the entirety of the situation, the combo is off the table, and Grease is like not good enough of a top deck. So what else is good in the deck?
I
Not
think
much.
it's got to be something along the lines of like a Yawgmoth into small creatures, or maybe a Grist to generate creatures, sack our creatures to draw more cards to kill their creatures on the other side. Other
Yeah,
than that
we also
line, I
choke
don't
on
see
the
much
amount of
else.
cards we can cast with with Yawgmoth in play, even because of the Blood
Yeah,
Moon.
and we just went face. We don't even care about this Grist. We're just going laying it all on the battlefield. Here is another Bone Crusher, probably about to come down. Multiple threats, and I like this. The other thing about Yawgmoth is it can't combo if it has a low life total.
True, 5 life points is very little, but I was
Mana.
wondering if this play maybe left some doors open for Dreef. What if we draw a young wolf? No, that doesn't quite cut it.
Uh,
Seems like it was pretty tough to come
you
with
might
some.
be able to with like a Wall of Roots. There, Wall of Roots is basically net 0 mana, but it gives us a 2-drop that we can evolution, go get a Yawgmoth. But I think our life total is too low to actually be able to do anything relevant, and it was. So they managed to take down a game at one. Our mono a red a Bosch deck takes it down. I don't think we've got these deck lists lined up, Adrian. No, we don't see. I've got them in front of me up here. So we've got Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth in the sideboard has got one Haywire Might, one Engineer Explosive, one Facial Push, three Fort Seizes, one Veil of Summer, one Go for the Throat, two Endurances, one Necromentia, three Force of Vigors, and one Shield Dread. What out of that do you like? Or did I rattle for that way too quickly for you, Canister?
I have the list in front of me too, so
Okay,
I
cool.
think Shoulder the Apocalypse, honestly, this looks like the greatest card available here, as it's just a 5 toughness creature, which seems like a really big deal against Squeeps' deck. This like fifth point of toughness seems really good.
Well,
For
we're straight
Squeep,
into it.
the Lantern of the Lost, even more Graveyard Hate, even more Relic of Progenitus effectively, Pyrite Spell, Shattering Speed, Chalice of the Void, Magus of the Moon. So really, probably not even sideboarding much unless you want more Lantern of the Lost. I'm not sure if you do.
So and also just on the other side, on the Squeep side, they've got two Lantern of the Lost, three Pirate Spellworm, three Shattering Spree, four Chalice of the Void, two Magus of the Moon, and obviously one Obosh. Limited to only being able to have odd number of cards in their deck. They do have like Chalice of the Voids, etc. So things like that can be relevant if they show it or not. And now we're going to see the Rot Farm come in. Again, we spoke about not ideal in the face of Blood Moons.
Yeah, it does not look ideal. Yeah.
Couple of Bosches in hand though, so we do have options to go with that if we want to. We can play a Grist this turn or Thoughtseize as well as Strangleroot Geist. We decided to go with the Thoughtseize here. I think I'd have to say it's got to be, well, there's two Fables, so it doesn't really make sense taking a Fable, potentially Blood Moon.
Yeah, you can answer Blood Moon if you just if you just version Catacombs for a forest right now. You're gonna have a Bossedri available, so maybe you could just ignore it.
So you think
Although
take a Fable?
you give them a land. If you take a Fable, they can still just play a Fable simply if they want to. So not like you accomplished particularly much by discarding the second Fable.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those like Thoughtseize proof hands, right? Like there's no good option to take here.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to go with the Blood Moon.
See the moon being taken, which makes sense. That's the only unique effect in Squeeps' hand, so it makes sense to go after that, even if it's not necessarily even a card that you'd expect Squeeps to cast on the next turn, possibly.
This is an interesting turn, right? So if they manage to draw Yawgmoth next turn, they can have a chance at going off. Do we respect that enough over on Sweep's side? Well, okay, Spikefield has it off the tops, pretty good because it will just straight up answer one of these creatures. But we're going to go with Fable. Okay, giving us the Sudo out. It's quite hard to combo from this spot if we drew a Yawgmoth, but it can be done with Yawgmoth plus being able to draw multiple cards, plus being able
It,
to
it would
cast
have been
multiple
easier
endurances.
to just draw many cards, though. You could just draw, right? You could just draw like 5, 6, 7,
Yeah,
8. And that alone could also set you up for having a powerful next turn. So
but
that would have been valuable, but right now we're just gonna see a grist, it seems.
but perfectly good follow-up play. It does leave our hand a little bit empty moving forward, and we did it. We managed to hit grist of grist. Obviously, it has the text. If you hit an infect, I keep saying infect, an insect off the top, repeat this process. So not only does it get 2 loyalty
What's your
counters, it
personal
also
record
gets
for
2
them?
tokens.
What's your personal record, Will? How many grists have you hit with grist?
I've only done done that. What we just see on the screen there, where you hit one other. I haven't actually
Okay.
fully spiraled off. Unfortunately, there's been times where I'm literally dead on board, unless I can hit 2 blockers or whatever, and I've managed to done it, and I'm like, oh my god, I feel so good right now.
Yeah.
Have you got a record? How many have you done?
Well, I had an episode where I played a little bit of the Magda Changeling deck, which you might or might not be familiar with. And that deck was kind of built around the idea of hitting many cards with grease. So I think I probably hit like 5 or 6 insects in a row, but that was with like 20 changelings in my deck, of course.
We managed to draw Yargmoth for the turn. Obviously, not the turn we wanted it. We could have done with it a turn ago, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, with these insect tokens, each one represents a card to be drawn if needs be. Also, this grist now in the ultimate range, it can do a bit of damage if we get enough creatures into the graveyard.
1, 2, 3, I count. So 3 damage is like a pretty meek ultimate, frankly, but it's there.
We've got the answer with a flame slash. And yeah, I like this. I think I want to refill my hand. I don't really have much going on. Never replace Yag. Okay, now I've drew the other Yagmoth. I think I'll let it die and just leave this token up. Potentially for Ragavans, etc. Another Fable. Going to come along with a Goblin Shaman token. Do you think this is the most played token currently in Magic?
Most played token. Likely.
Or Adrian says
Yeah.
treasure. That's also a good shout.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. Everyone who plays Goblin Shamans plays treasures too, so by just nature of things, treasures gonna be
I'm not
most
sure about this attack.
we might as well attack
Or
and
the
just
block. Let's be honest.
well, you probably should block. You can just let your opponent deal 1 damage to you for no reason. They can do the thing
Oh,
anyways, right?
and a Haywire Might to get rid of that Fable. Love
Did
to
you
see
know
it.
that the Haywire Might doesn't have the creature type Might?
I did know that. I think you've actually told me that before. I think one of our past
Really?
broadcasts, you said that to me. Yeah, I think you actually said to me, oh, it does not have it. But it is an insect. So, with Grist, a little bit of synergy, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Bone Crusher off the top. I'm still thinking about last turn. We had the ability to cord for 2. And I'm wondering if that was better than attacking and getting rid of the Goblin Shaman. If we
Possibly
cord for,
getting
if we
a
cord for
getting a
2, get Blood Artist.
dying creature maybe or blood artist.
Does this list play? What am I thinking of? What's the forest creature? Arbiter, yes.
Dryad
Doesn't look like it does. No dried arbiter, so we can't fetch that up. Just gonna kind of rebuild our board a little bit here, I guess. We can cord for a gazillion, cord for 4 if needs be.
I think there's
What
been
we
a
got?
there is a Hapatra in the list. Is that good in this spot? Maybe it's bordered out, but
It's good at clearing the battlefield, right? Like basically, as long as this card's on the battlefield, which we do see it is now,
Mhm.
as long as you've got enough life, you'll be able to kill every creature on the other side of the battlefield. And
Makes
because it kind of makes this sort of pattern that you're seeing, right? I'm suddenly moving into the expert role, like I know this deck inside and out. I'm sorry, Kanister. Tell us how the patcher works.
No, I've got no idea. Please tell me.
Can someone timestamp that and clip it and just have Kanister say he doesn't know what? That'd be great for me. Round Up Ruins off the top, kind of an all-star back when it was in standard, getting those last few points of damage across.
Actually, a banned card.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, so
that good.
certainly Fable of the Mirror Breaker or whatever else ends up being banned in the Monday announcement will be joining the ranks of Rampaging Ferocidon, Grove Spiral, and Ramming Up Ruins. And Rogue Refiner.
All right, can we get the graveyard up? Can we see how many creatures are in the graveyard for the Yagmoth player? Now we're like in at range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So
Creatures.
Yagmoth can do 6 damage. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cancel that. Obviously, we sack this in response. So the stomp goes. I do like this. Put a counter on here. Get ourselves another snake. Are we just? I think we're just doing this to refill our hand. Okay. We do have Young Wolf and Strangleroot Geist, but we are only at 7 life, so we do need, one of our ways to gain life, either the Blood Artist or an Innkeeper here. A Bosch comes down. The big 3/5.
Endurance.
And Endurance.
Doesn't
That
seem to
might
change
be.
much.
Dun, dun, dun. So
Do we sacrifice the Strangleroot guys to put a -1/-1 counter on Orbosh? We could also just use Grizz to kill Orbosh, I guess, and then we could attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would mean we do not use the ultimate of Grist, but I guess we are not after that. It's probably better to stay at a comfortable 7 life where it is unlikely that we're gonna die to burn spells and just attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bring opponent to 6.
yeah. If we can't get a one shot this turn, we might as well, do it for 2. I wonder if there's a weird way where if we sacrifice the Strangleroot Geist there and proliferate, maybe put extra counters on it and get extra damage. I don't think we can do it, and I think we're going to do it twice. So yeah, I like this line. Pretty safe. Is there a line? Ruins does 2 to 5.
Even
Fury off the
considering
top.
the Yawgmoth's proliferate ability shows your mastery of the deck because it's an ability that comes up rare enough that I actually forgot it's there.
Yeah, it's not something you use, but when you're in this like beatdown sort of plan, or if you want it ultimate grist to turn early, you just proliferate, put an extra count on it, take it down. Certain players don't work about, but here we're in a catch 22, right? Do you kill the creatures or do you knock the grist down? The grist ultimate's going to kill you now. The creatures on the battlefield are going to kill you. It's pretty rough going, and I think we will be going to a game 3 here. But we're deciding. Maybe you play to your ouch. Your opponent might not see it. And we're going to hit, okay, so we're going to kill 2 creatures to the grist so it can't ultimate, but it actually can because of the proliferate ability on Yawgmoth. But we're just going to draw a few cards. We know there's only 1 card in hand, so as long as we don't drop below 3, potentially, and die to Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, end of turn we can proliferate.
Okay, and them playing the land there just seals it up. Or just playing Endurance. It's another creature that can do it. So we are going to be able to get ourselves a game 3. Okay, this is good. I like this matchup. I like how it's going. I think Fury's very big in it. Obviously, game 1 we saw decided by the Blood Moon. Game 2 here, Yawgmoth got to kind of just do what they wanted to do, and we're going to go into this game 3, but they will be on the play this time. Reminder of their sideboard, which really, if you look at this deck list, I feel like it's really hard for them to win with like 4 relics in the main, plus another 2 lanterns of the lost in the sideboard. A lot of stuff that they've got to fight through. Plus all this burning. They've got 4 main deck flame slashes. That deals with Yawgmoth at sorcery speed, mind you. 4 spike field hazards.
Honestly, we did mention Shouldered. Like it does seem excellent. Like it does seem like you could just play Shouldered and while your opponent is sitting there with relics and flame slashes, you get to drain them and gain life on your own. So
I think this is the classic
oh,
kind of hand from a sweeps deck where you have the blast zone, all red spells in your hand, decides to mulligan it wisely. This looks like a bit more of a keepable hand to me.
yeah,
Over on the other
actually
side,
has Blood Moon is looking pretty good, but it's probably gonna get tagged by Fotsies, and Dreep's hand is looking pretty excellent. You've got the Fotsies, the classic Fotsies Wall of Roots into Shieldred Curve, or you can replace Shieldred with Greased if you want to.
we did speak about Shieldred and how good that could be. Not many cards, if any, just looking through the deck can deal with it. It might just have to be a 2-for-1, opposed to something like a blast zone getting ticked up to 4. But we're going to start off on a turn 1 relic. This is what you want to be doing on turn 1, if not Ragavan, I would say. But then that's if Ragavan stay in the deck, because they don't line up too well against Young Wolves.
A little bit surprised not to see a 10-1 Fotsies given the perfect curve of the spells, but understandable, I guess.
So there's 2
Uh,
Blood Moon effects in the hand here. One's Blood Moon, one is Magus of the Moon.
no, that's
Do we
disaster.
have... No, we've got no basics, no way to fetch, and we might just get caught out by this.
Yeah.
I suppose taking the creature there means that, it's one less clock, so to speak. And we're just going to play this kind of guarding, knowing that it is coming down and we will have a Blood
There's,
Moon on the
there's
battlefield.
also Haywire Might and Bossejus, so it's easier to destroy Blood Moon than it is to destroy Magus, it seems.
Forest check in the deck. 2 forests and 1
Alright.
swamp are the only basics in this deck.
Boseju drawn though, so I'll just Forest now. Also, you can see how Dreef took advantage of Blood Moon by deploying Golgari Rot Farm without any drawback.
Value. That's what it is. That's just straight value. As we
Yeah.
do bolt the creature left in play and draw 2 fresh ones, Blast Zone being one of them, and Bone Crusher Giant.
Another one.
Another
Let's
one.
go.
So much mana if we can deal with the Blood Moon on the other side. It might just come down to this, though. It might be another Blood Moon game. I don't know about you, but I quite like just getting the Bone Crusher on the battlefield and increasing the clock here.
For sure, yeah. Stomp face or not. Grabbing an Elbosh
Oh,
also,
okay.
I guess, increases the clock, so... Oh, Swamp.
All right. We got a swamp. Not the basic we were after, but we'll take it moving forward. It will let us potentially cast that Grist if we
Yeah,
do get
Swamp
a
doesn't
forest.
really do anything, right? Like, the only spell
Oof.
you can cast with a Swamp is what? Fotsies? Fotsies and Blood Artists, so not
So
much.
this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I think that's it, right? I think that's game. I think there's with all the damage you've got in hand. Spike Field can go face. Bone Crusher can go face. In fact, Bone Crusher's stomp ability. Oh, okay, the lightning bolt's probably gonna do it. The stomp doesn't do the extra damage from the Abosh, does it?
Yeah, it is not an odd-costed spell. It's a 2-cost spell.
Well, this format, a lot of people are being greedy with their mana bases. A lot of Blood Moons are floating around, and unfortunately, there we do get caught out by it, and we do see a Blood Moon winning that game from and advancing themselves to a 6-1 record. We don't
Yeah.
obviously. There's no IDs on Magic Online, so
Blood
everybody's got to
Moon,
play it out. Everybody's in with a shot of making the top 8. Pretty good going. We should have a better understanding after the next round. Obviously, this round finishes of who's going to be playing their winning ins. But start with, welcome back to the booth, the virtual booth of all. I'm obviously we are definitely not in America where it's all being held out of. We're in Europe. My name is Will Hall. That is Kanister MTG. Of course, it's Kanister MTG. He's a phenomenal control player. Some of you might have heard of him. And Adrian's going to try and sort us out a backup feature match. It's probably a good time to give Adrian a big thumbs up chat. Can we get some hype in the chat about him? There's one man behind the band at the minute doing all the behind the scenes work while we just sit here and waffle and talk about rubbish. So a big hats off to Adrian putting in graft here. He's the hardest worker out of the three of us. Let's be honest. Anything
that's
stand
not untrue.
anything stand out for you in those matchups that we just seen there, Canister? Any highlights?
Certainly, we've seen that Blood Moon punished the Golgari Rot Farm harder than it would have probably a traditional Yawgmoth mana base, so...
Yeah, the one with more fetches
With
in it. Yeah.
yeah, more ways to fetch basics, get forest, like mana dorks that produce mana through Blood Moon. That's all options, but
Okay, it looks like we
tough
do
time.
have our backup feature match. Adrian's all over it, where we do have the Harden Scales match that we player that we were talking about earlier on, doing pretty well against player of Magic. Magic of player one on Living End, who again has technically not lost a weekend, but they did pick up that unfortunate disconnect.
Yeah, this Borsay brings back memories, right?
I was about to say, talk us through this interaction.
Hagman Dravaja versus Living End. There was such a classic interaction back in the day, when Living End was still a John deck and Affinity was still a playable deck and Mox Opal existed. All that stuff. You can just always sacrifice your entire board to Arkbon Ravager, and that means that you never lose your board when uh, Living End happens. So we're actually gonna see that happen right now. We don't see the player's hand, but it is it's interesting that they chose to use the Enkmov Nexus. I'm not entirely sure what is the idea of that, but we are about to see.
True. I'm trying to think, why would we be
Living
doing
End
this then?
sacrifices a creature, so alright, we just want
Okay.
to collect more counters on the Rakon
Because
Ravager.
Living End says each opponent sacrifices. It's
Yeah.
not a destroy or an exile effect. You sacrifice it into exile, and then you basically swap the creatures in play with the creatures in the graveyard. So,
You just sacrifice the creatures on the battlefield. You exile the creatures from the graveyard. Yeah, you're right.
but
So I
I'm
don't
still
understand the strategical reason for getting rid of Inkmoth Nexus right now, but maybe it's going to become apparent in just a second. So
yeah,
let's
we'll look stupid in a
watch,
second. Just wait around, ladies
watch
and gentlemen.
and wait.
This all comes back now. They're going to probably look at the top three cards of their own deck because the Saga trigger is on the stack, which we can only imagine might be trying to go get a hate piece to, exile the opposing graveyard.
Presumably, that might be one of the available effects to fetch. But
I
given
am really
that
curious about this
Living
Inkmoth
End was
play.
cast in response to that, we're probably gonna see the Ozolith. Yeah, the Ozolith with Akun Ravager can go real big. And
Let's
then two cards in hand, Urza Saga, Soulless Jailer, probably just gonna play both of those.
maybe it was a misstep. Maybe we had one mana floating from the Urza Saga, and we actually wanted to tap our Inkmoth Nexus for mana, but because we had the one mana floating, we accidentally activated it because it's on Modo that happens. If you've got mana floating and click on Inkmoth, it won't intentionally go straight to your to tap it for mana. It might just animate it. So maybe that's why. Maybe we're looking at a misclick it.
It could be.
Let's
Hard to
see
say.
how this moves forward. Empty-handed though, opposed to a big battlefield on the other side with 7 cards in hand. I don't want to
Akun
know the math
Ravager
of how
and
big things can get here. I'll leave that for you when that becomes
yeah.
apparent.
Arbon Ravager and the Ozolith just makes things really big, but not for the immediate purpose of blocking. I don't think we can really make a 5/5 blocker reasonably, because you probably want to keep Ravager in play. If you sacrifice Zabaz, then you just one counter onto your automaton. So that's probably nade out. You're probably gonna be taking 10 damage.
What were you trying to look for on the other side of the battlefield? Maybe like a walking ballista or something?
Walking Ballista would be a great draw for sure. With Ozolith and Arbon Ravager and Zabaz, I assume it would add up to 11 or more. That would be my belief. But yeah, Panda Tomig is looking for a ballista for sure. On the other hand, Magic of Player 1 has a full hand of 6 cards, and we don't know, unfortunately, what exactly is in there, but it is potentially. It is a scary amount. It's a lot of cards, so.
Yeah, like if they're not cycling cards, then it could be things like force and negation, could be like some bounce effects of like sky turtles, etc. I'm just gonna see if
Yeah.
I can get their deck list up on my
Also,
screen. What have we got? We got Brazen Burrows potentially could be in hand. Could just be more living ends. I mean, they might have just drawn their living ends, unfortunately for them. If they do, uh, is after sideboard, so it could be things like Dead Gone, Endurances. Could be Force of Vigors, waiting for the proper time to fire one of them off. Lots of
mhm.
possibilities here for both players.
Certainly, certainly. You also have to be careful with your attacks because you just don't want to die on the crackback, and it is easy to die on the crackback if you're just gonna leave yourself with no blockers. There is 1, 2, 3 points, 4 points of power on the battlefield right now, but that could easily convert into 11 points with the Ozolith and Zabaz.
I am kind of hoping we don't have the situation we had last time of a disconnect, but they are doing not a lot in their main phase, so they might end up be disconnecting again, which obviously is not ideal if it does happen to them. We saw them pick up their only loss this tournament by that happening. These things do happen, though. This isn't a turn up to an event play. This is an online game. You do need a rig being able to play it out. Who would you say is kind of favored in this spot? Obviously, we don't know the cards in hand for Magic Play One, and it looks like they're back, so we've got a fetch land. So
I can't really tell you. I don't really know. It's just so intricate, and it's not a matchup that's very popular until recently, since Scales regained some popularity after the printing of Ozolith, the Shattered Spire. It's been a very, very fringe deck for a while.
as you predicted, we are going to get in here for 10 points damage. Don't have very good blockers here. We do have a Welding Jar. If we wanted to, go that route and kind of block, regenerate, or maybe we're just going to block and try and get out of this module counter.
Yeah, I
Sacrifice
was
it to the Arcbound
surprised
Ravager.
if there is a block because block sacrifice the welding jar, because I would think that you want to keep as much stuff as you can on the battlefield to make your next turn the strongest that it can be, but that also is probably a viable option. Blocking with Zabaz. It's pretty hard to use Zabaz's ability. The one that the triggered ability that enhances your other modular abilities is actually pretty rare that it lines up, because for the most part your Zabaz is your only modular creature.
Okay, draw
And
step upkeep.
Positive
We are going
Vigor.
to see this Force of Vigor in hand, ditching Shardless Agent, targeting the Arcbound Ravager and the Urza's Saga. Remember, this is in the upkeep.
This in the upkeep, and this is a tough decision to make. We could Welding Jar the Archbound Ravager to protect it, to keep the Ravager around on the battlefield. We could just let it happen and make our um, Patchwork Automaton really big. This is also an option. Pandatomi could also let the Ravager go. That's 3 counters on the Soulless Jailer and then 3 counters on the Ozolith,
This is,
which then makes both Patchwork Automaton and Soulless Jailer pretty big, and you still get to keep Welding Jar.
see
So
how
many
this
options.
does decide to sack it, move the 4 counters across. Obviously, 4 more going over. If we do get a draw step, it is an Ancient Stirrings. It's probably one of the better ones. Get to look at the top 5 cards of our library, put a colorless spell into our hand. I believe that's the wording or that to that effect. Let me just get that
Colorless
notated.
card, because you can also grab lands like Growth of
Colorless
the
card,
Bedrock.
thank you. Not the best one, being a land that gives your opponent life. Not exactly where we want to be, but we can move 4 counters across here if we choose to. And we
Patchwork
do.
Automaton is a 5/5 now, so it doesn't interact very favorably in combat with the Stripped Riverwinder. So it's looking pretty rough
End of
combat-wise,
turn.
because you don't have great blocks anymore. Dead Gone. Wow, that's an excellent card. It also
That's
sidesteps the Welding
huge.
Jar.
That
It
is
removes
a
the one
one
good
of in the
filter.
deck.
Yeah, that's so good right here.
So we get to untap 11 life. We've got
That's
that's
just
lethal,
lethal.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
lethal. Bounce it. We've got 11 power, even if we block the 5/5. So I believe that must have been game 3, right? And Living End took that down. So congratulations to them again, giving themselves an X-1 record going into the last round. This is 8 rounds of Magic. Remember. Welcome back to the Blue Play Show. Obviously, Will Kanister MTG. We've been carrying you all through this weekend. One more round left to go. We're going to have a real short break while the last matches finish off, while we get it all set up, and we'll be back with the penultimate round and see who is going to get into that top 8 tomorrow. See you all real shortly. Will Hall, better known on the internet as the Will Hall EXP, and my dance partner all weekend is the one and only Kanister MTG. We've got here to the last round, round number 8. A lot of Magic has been played. We've seen some good top decks. We've seen some questionable misclicks happen at times, but this all hits onto the show of the game, right? And this is why we love watching live coverage of
We've
these
also
type of
seen
events.
many excellent plays, of course. So
There's been some phenomenal plays out here, and that's what we're going to start seeing, especially now we're getting towards the last round and who is going to get into that top 8. We're going to see if we can see what they're playing for, what the difference between being in the top 8 and the top 16 is going to be, the prize money, the differences is going to happen. See if Adrian can get that on the screen for us now. He said, yes, give me 1 sec. So, we'll give him that little bit of a moment. But while he's getting that up, there is a bit of a difference, right? It's not only we're just playing for money, we're playing for invitations, but here's the money. Everyone now that manages to make themselves into that top 8 is going to win themselves $25 credit all the way up to $300 for first place. If they are a Mancho subscriber, they're going to get a 10 times bonus. So not only is this tournament free to take part in, but if you already use Mana Traders, why would you not want to play in it? And as you see there, the top 2 players also get invited to the end of the year 25K tournament. We spoke about that multiple times this weekend. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, so make sure you hit that follow button if you missed all that information, and I'll talk through it again, saying all the extra points. We do have a bounty for the weekend. This is something unique that Mana Traders are doing in their events. They always get like an MTG personality to be the bounty. And this time around, it is the one and only Brad Nelson, of course, famous for being the brother of Kai Barmeister, who's normally sat in the seat that I'm in right now. But he's away doing some extra things. Going into the last round, Brad was, I believe, 4-2, maybe 5-2. We're just trying to clear up what his record was. 4-2. We're going to look at see how he got on with his last round. 4-3, I've just been told on my ear. So he is giving away another $50. So that is what happens in these events. If you get paired against the MTG personality and you manage to defeat them, you will win yourself an extra $50. So if you come in first place, you not only get the $300, but you also get an extra $50 on it. And then, of course, if you're a Manchester subscriber, that 300 is going to turn into 3,000, and you'll be walking away. You'll be like, a nice little dinner, an extra $50 can give you. Or even better, I don't think Brad's out of top 8 contention now, but if you did beat him in the Swiss and then managed to play him in the top 8 and beat him there, it's extra $100 for your weekend of playing the game that we all love. We'll see if we can move across. How's the pairings looking, Adrian? Okay, we're just waiting on the matches to be made. Then we'll be jumping in, but we will be featuring a 4-color Omnath deck, and it's quite unique. Canister, what's different about this deck that we don't potentially see these days? We used to see it a lot, but we don't see it too much these days.
Well, remember Yorion.
I do remember Yorion. Very beautiful deck. Love to play it.
Yeah. Took it. It's been a while since it got banned, but some people are still making the decision to just choose to make their deck 80 cards, because that way you can contain more stuff, more value, more silver bullets, more cards in general. So here we see 4-color midrange by the user Geok1. Just featuring a little bit of everything. We see Titania, we see Elishnorn, we see full 8 Planeswalkers and full 8 Evoke Elementals. We see 2 copies of the new Nissa Resurgent Animus, a ton of other card advantage, abundant growths that do help against Blood Moon and other effects like that. Even in absence of Yorion, they're still there to help you if you struggle with your mana a little bit.
This deck always
And
reminds me of basically take all the really expensive cards in modern, just put them into one deck, and it just pays out quite right because they got a nice synergy of being elementals, which is kind of why the new Nissa fits into this pretty nicely, right? It's got a new effects that we haven't. Well, I suppose we've seen like landfall type effects, but like this has got a pretty unique landfall effect. Tell us about that.
yeah, it's a pretty nice effect. Nissa basically guarantees you that you'll draw a spell with her effect if you follow her up with a fetch land, which is always appreciated in a Ren N6 deck, which sometimes struggles to not flood out a little, at least a little bit in a longer game. So Nissa, a decent free drop value creature, so definitely an option alongside Risen Reef and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which both of which are featured in this deck too. So
Yeah, Risen Reef really is like when I was playing these decks, like the elemental builds, um, it's such value, and you hate having to use a card to kill it. But if it stays on the battlefield, it almost generates more value than an Omnath does. Every single time you play an elemental, you either get another card in your hand or another land into play, which, as we spoke about, can get extra triggers with now the Nissas and the Omnaths and things. It looks like we're going to get to the end to the feature match, and they are against Magic of Player One that we've seen multiple times. They are going to be on Living End. I'm going to have a little look at this deck list. What we've got one endurance in the main. Are there
with
ways to
free
find it?
with free Eladrani's Call
Yes,
to
with the
tutor
Eldraine
it, but
School.
there is some tools to find it, but that is one of the more important cards. Plenty of cards don't really do all that much against Living End. Cards like Titania, Elishnorn, Omnath, Nissa, Fable, Expressive Iteration, Prismatic Ending, they're not too good against Living End, so I can't imagine that being a great matchup, and I can't imagine making your deck 80 cards, 95 together with the sideboard is really advantageous in it, but let's see
You do have
how.
Teferi's in the deck, though, remember? Teferi 3 is in the
Yeah,
deck. Yes, it's 80 cards. It's going to be a bit harder for us to draw. But we drew the one endurance off the top by the looks of it. So we've got a little bit about. We've got a game here.
certainly, yeah, the endurance being in the hand already is a big deal. And as much as I disregarded Fable of the Mirror Breaker, it does let you put some creatures into your graveyard so that Living End is actually less threatening once it resolves, right? You can put some Solitudes, Furies, Omnaths, Elish Norns into your graveyard to make sure that you have a board presence once your opponent Living End. So
And I like this. Abundant Grazer on my fetch land because it can target any land, means I don't have to take any damage for it. We are going to play the Hallowed Fountain untap, though. Take 2 points of damage. Get a Fable the Mirror Breaker come down here.
yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. You play it to set it up to get to chapter 2 and the next turn to do the thing that I have mentioned. You
I was just
want to
thinking,
put this
imagine
in your hand.
this card wasn't legal when Yorion was legal. Imagine Yorion flickering your Fable that's out as well. Just even more value can be generated from this card.
I think it actually was legal for a period of
Oh,
time.
was it?
Yeah.
Maybe I just wasn't big brain enough to put them both in the same deck. And we're going to see a couple of cycles here. Maybe we're trying to hit a force negation, and doesn't look like we did. Looks like it might be resolving. Yep, it's going to come down. It's going to give us
Seems
a 2/2 shaman token. We spoke about, we were talking about maybe this is most played token in Magic, but then we came to a conclusion that it's the treasure token, especially in modern. I mean, things like Ragavan, creating them as well as this Goblin Shaman. Third
yeah,
land
that's
drop for the
a treasure
turn
token.
for Magic of Player One. This is where they want to be. This means that they can now start casting their cascade spells, as we're going to see here with a Shardless Agent coming down. And, on the other side of the battlefield, 80 cards. What's the chances that they've got that endurance in their hand while they're tapped out? Gonna be pretty high. Gonna be pretty high. And the awkward bit about this is as well, you can stack it so the endurance goes to the graveyard and ends up coming back.
In fact, you cannot stack it
Can you
in a
not?
way where it wouldn't come back. I think what the interaction you're
Oh,
thinking of is the interaction of when you are using endurance to shuffle your own graveyard into your deck, which comes up against mill, where you can choose to shuffle your endurance back into your deck by
no,
letting
the
it
interaction
sit
that
off
just
trigger
happened is what I
result.
was talking about, as in like the endurance comes back into play.
Yeah, it does come back into play. I was just mentioning that it,
Oh,
in
right, yeah,
fact,
yeah, yeah. I
there's
was
no way
like,
for it not to come back. But
oh, right, that's what
you
you're saying. I
were
thought you was like,
fully correct.
I thought you were like, no, no, it doesn't come back. I was like, whoa, I really haven't played this card enough. But here we are, Fable, and then we need to kind of go off last turn with that Cascade spell, right? Because this is the turn that we could end up hitting some creatures into our graveyard with this Fable being able to draw two, discard two, or discard two, draw two. Sorry.
I mean, like
Anything?
it's not that scary of an effect, right? In the end, like it is maybe slightly inconvenient. So you would like to go get your Shardless Agent, get your free creatures, which you thought that was what was supposed to happen. But second chapter of Fable of the Mirror Breaker Resolving is not game over. But the Fairy Time Raveler might
Hmm,
just be.
that's a good one. We're gonna get in here, get our 3 points of damage while we can.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, bouncing the Shardless Agent, not normally something you want to be doing in Magic. It's kind of not good for you because they can recast the Cascade spells. But with it to Fairy on the battlefield, it's almost exactly what you want to be doing.
That is not what Georg
I
is
suppose.
choosing to do.
I
Instead,
suppose
trying to develop mana with expressive iteration, interestingly.
also you got to think that on the other side of the battlefield, they haven't filled their graveyard up, right? Unless they get like rattle off a load of street wraiths and then can kind of cascade into it. They do need to spend a turn cascade cycling their creatures into that graveyard of theirs.
Yeah, next turn should be relatively safe, but at the same
But
time, one could argue that you could that this way you give your opponent more time to draw into a force
yeah,
of negation. So there's two sides of that coin.
I don't
One
think
interesting,
I'm gone.
one interesting thing here on the battlefield is that Fable of the Mirror Breaker, once it flips into Reflection and it's able to copy Endurance, that's actually pretty scary for living in, right? It's just
Yeah,
there
that's
on the
pretty.
battlefield. You can clear the graveyard at any point, if that
We
is the case. So
also got Ephemerates in the deck that we need to start thinking of as well if we're over on Magic at player one side, because potentially flickering this endurance could also be pretty rough for us. They're just
mhm.
stacking their graveyard up here. That is two living ends into their graveyard, so we got to kind of watch. There's only a couple left in the deck, but I think I would have just snapped off the Teferi last turn, and if you got it, you got it, but might not pay dividends here.
Magic of
Stomping
Player
ground,
actually playing a list with only 3 living ends, so that might be
could
dangerous.
yeah.
Dangerous territory.
I think this is going to be the turn that's going to be decided. If this gets countered, we're still in it. If it resolves like that, I think we're having that's it. I think it's hard time now. I
Yeah.
don't like to call games too early, but I do think that might be a bit too much. Dealing with a resolved Teferi, you just keep ticking it up continuously. The only answers that they're going to have in the main decks is game one, and it is open deck list, is one Brazen Borrower, and there's no
One
Sky
copy of
Turtles in this list.
Atawara.
Oh, and I know
One copy of
Tawara, which
Atawara
is
too, yeah. So there's two
yeah.
bounce spells available.
And we decide to draw with it. And it gives us a abundant growth. Getting a bit more
I like
damage.
how aggressive Goek gets with this endurance. Like Magic of Players actually already at 6 lives, so just 2 more endurance hits, and they're also gonna die. So they have to incorporate the life points into their plan, which is yet another thing to worry. Actually, just next turn you just copy endurance. Oh, there's an effeminate too. Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
way
this
too
is rough.
much. Just way too much. I was doubtful of the elementals deck getting there in this game, but
So like that, I mean, because
clearly,
Teferi's in the battlefield, we know that our spells are going to resolve the flickering this endurance, getting rid of the graveyard, blocking this, putting a 2/2 in the graveyard, and then having lethal on the backswing if there's no more blockers coming down. And to add to all
Mhm.
that, there's another Teferi in hand plus an unholy heat. So It's going to have to be pretty good, and I don't think this 4/4 is going to do it. We've got enough mana to copy and play a Teferi.
Even this Curator of Mysteries is not gonna stop the lethal damage.
So we're going to copy this in response. We're probably
Not
going to
bleeding
ephemerate the
and
Fable.
not bleeding an ounce of value. Just has to ephemerate the Fable for the full value. Finally, you also ephemerate in the upkeep, right? So you get the first chapter and then you move to your main phase. You immediately get the second chapter. So you kind of goes through kind of fast forwards through the saga.
And we've got a prismatic ending with the amount of mana to cast it to get rid of that block if we want to go that route and not play the Teferi here. Lots of different options, but I'm pretty certain we are going to go to a game number 2. Let's just let him play it out here, though.
Yeah, you could say that all roads lead to Rome in this situation.
And 2 endurances get turned sideways. That's 6 points of damage, and they managed to take down game number 1. Okay, let's go to the sideboards and see if we can get the deck lists up and see what sort of cards you believe they should be bringing in or not, or how you would play it. What do you like out of this sideboard?
There's a good amount of very nice cards. Hallowed Moonlight comes to mind. 3 Dovin's Veto. Hallowed Moonlight blanks a living end to Veil of Summer protects from grief and force of negation. Magus of the Moon is a card you can tutor and mess with their mana. Not sure if that's a great plan, but it's probably worth including over some of the weaker options like Unholy Hit or Prismatic Ending or maybe Furies. A second Endurance actually comes in, and you could consider boarding Obsidian Charmo if you just want a 5 mana way to interact with your opponent's mana, but it's on the weaker end.
What
What
cards
we'll
are
be
not
looking
strong in this matchup?
to cut is, as I said, removal. Point removal is just kind of not necessary, especially since you're probably still gonna keep Solitudes in your deck as a way to interact with your opponent's creatures. So Unholy Hits and Prismatic Endings are gonna be the first cards, and then you might look into Fury, maybe Nissa, maybe Ephemerate.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's get back down to let's see how they're going to line up. These decks are going to stack. That is a no land hand, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be taking the mulligan at the top of your screen. Again, we don't have the living in player's hand, unfortunately, so we are going to be guesstimating what they could have on the way that they play the game. So we're all at home.
I do like it. It does add a little bit of mystery to
Yeah, I
the
do. Unless we've got one player's perspective, and we can talk through the lines of what they could be playing around, what could they have. But they are on the play, going to be pretty key. It means that we could cascade off a turn before a Teferi Time Raveler comes down. Obviously, we see 2 of them in hand. Hold on, do we just keep a
Yeah,
no lander?
it does seem that way, which is a little bit puzzling, but there is
Um,
a there is
oh,
a certain type of strategy you can employ against Living End, which is to clean up discard creatures. And this hand does have some nice creatures. Fury, Titania,
this has
Obna.
got that meme. This is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. To me, this is sure. I mean, I suppose we've got an Omnath in the battlefield. If that comes back and we have a fetch land, it can get us some mana for a turn to cast our spells. It's definitely going to be interesting. We'll see how it pans out for them. I haven't seen
The
this
downside
strategy for
of
a while.
the downside of such a strategy might be that it might fall short when it's gonna end up facing like a 4 mana hardcast Curator of Mysteries.
Yeah.
But we'll see which direction this game will go.
Well, obviously, we do have a solitude to deal with that if we need to, but it is this is a different tactic. I'm really looking forward to how chat's going to react to this, and I wish we could interview the players and ask, like, what is it? Was this the game? Maybe they boarded out all their land and just kept in creatures. You know what I mean? And this is how they think that this is
Uh,
a good
that's
game. Maybe
actually
we're the dumb ones here.
impossible, well, because they have 15 cards in the sideboard, one of which is a Boseiju. So at most they can board out 14 lands. So That's just
Why do you
not
always have to
not the
ruin my
possible
day? Like,
strategy.
come on, I'm trying to be a funny guy here. I'm trying to look at the best person knows, and you're just always kicking me while I'm down. This is what people don't see. You understand? They think you're this really nice guy streamer, come up to you. You're so nice. Behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen, oh my god, it's a different person. I tell you, diva, bully, everything goes on. I'm just had it up to here right now. He's not even letting me enjoy my random living in no man's land of boarding out X amount of cards and boarding in all my creatures. But this is a different strategy, right? I can't say we've seen this. I can't say I've ever commentated on something like this. I'm trying to think of a thought. Is this like a vintage or a legacy type of game plan with like the old
There,
reanimated decks?
there's that famous legacy manaless dredge deck,
I know
which
you're a
is
fan of playing that.
not actually really good, and nobody really plays it to my knowledge. But it kind of exists in the heads of many players as like this example of a deck that does not run any lands. You always have to take the draw of the deck, and you can never mulligan because you have to draw up to 8 and discard a card in a cleanup to start dredge.
So
That's the only way.
we are cascading. It looks like we are casting a living end.
All right.
Omnath,
We're probably gonna
Fury, and Nissa, the cards in the opposing graveyard that would come back.
we're probably gonna see Solitude being
Solitude.
patched too. So this is a living end that brings back 8 creatures, but like 4 creatures for each player. And frankly, Geox's creatures are just better, right? Well,
I'm not even
we can.
joking that this looks like it play it this line. I can't say it's not worked. It's working.
It's
Solitude, get rid of
working.
the big 7/7. Fury, get rid of the 3/3.
Yeah,
Omnath
we
is
get
going to
to
draw you a
draw a
card, which
card.
is obviously going to be a fetch land because that's how Magic works. Oh, I suppose
We
we've got
get
Architect's Will.
to mess up with the top of the deck with Architects of Will a little bit. So
Look, I love it. I
guaranteed
love
to be
Magic, and this is the bit start stuff I love about Magic. Risen Reef drawn for the turn, or drawn off the Omnath. Now we're going to start getting the Solitude trigger. That didn't work out too well.
all right.
Maybe we go
What
to
now?
combat and we've got another living end to cast.
Engaging in combat is pretty rough because your opponent can also play in a way where they trade cards against you. It does make sense to, let's say, do a living end like this, then grief, check your opponent's hand, let's say cycle a card, cycle a street rave, and then living end again. That way, Magic of Player would actually end up with a dominating board position versus nothing. So maybe that is the plan because so far it does look slightly funny in the way it's played out, but it actually does make sense if those are the cards available to Magic of Player. All right.
Yeah, this looks like this is what's going to happen. We're going to cast another living end. We're going to raft the board on both sides, but yet we're going to be able to have a few more cards on the battlefield. Just 8 power, but that might just be enough, especially as we get to take out another card from the hand. Plus, we get to stack the top 3 cards of their deck, essentially
Mm.
putting all the lands as far away as possible.
Yeah, you just need three attacks, right? And you know your opponent's hand is 5 blank cards virtually. They're not gonna, they just throwing a land doesn't do the job here, right? You need 3 of those, and the reward is getting to play well like the fairy.
Okay, nice of them. Gave him a running 6. Pretty useful right now.
What is interesting actually that maybe Georg actually wasn't supposed to evoke the solitude in response to the living end because the board as it was strong enough maybe. And then you could evoke the solitude later on the waker that was on the battlefield, and then you'd have a solitude in your graveyard for the second living end, which would require a huge amount of foresight, which certainly we talking about this much lacked as we were giggling and laughing.
It's a bold strategy. I don't think I've ever commentated on a game of Magic like this before. So I'm glad I've done. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to do this. It didn't pay off for them, unfortunately. I don't think. I think they're going to drop themselves down to 1 here, and that might be all she wrote. But I got to respect it. That was a bold strategy. They went with it. They fully committed by not drawing any land for basically the game, and it just didn't get there. It didn't pay off for them, unfortunately. Now we're to the point where we're hard casting 4/4 flyers, and we also know what our opponent's top card is going to be. So we almost know that they're drawing dead, and it was a windswept heath, and that's it. We're going to scoop it up. We are going to get a game 3 here. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't even know where to go with that. It's almost like one of my highlights of this weekend is seeing. I'm going to keep a no lander and just start discarding cards. This is their deck list. This is the 80 cards that they brought, plus the 15 in the sideboard. Obviously, we're used to seeing Yorion back in the day. That card is now banned in this format, so we just decided we don't need Yorion. 80 cards is good enough for us to be able to get forward and do our game plan as it is. Is there? I don't think there's going to be much change, play or draw, but you're going to tell me if I'm wrong or not, Canister?
I think the cards that you cut are not really like cards you want to bring back into your deck, so it's probably not gonna be much change. Yeah, like the removal spells are still gonna be gone. Mm. Still, if you want vetoes and Hallowed Moonlight, that doesn't change. So
Well,
the
we'll see.
match is gonna be rather similar.
If we've got a bit more of a game. Remember, these two players are X and 1, I believe. Let me just double check that they are X and 1. So that the winner of this is pretty much locking up a top 8. The loser of this probably is only going to get into the top 16, top 32, depending on how tiebreakers go. But it looks like we've managed to keep a hand with land. Say that a couple of times quickly. And we've got things like a Veil of Summer to stop griefs, Doan Veto to counter living ends, as well as a couple of ephemerate. If we do manage to draw any of our convoke creatures, we kind of get
Yeah.
that pseudo scam effects
So
if need be. Ideally, endurance, I
those
guess.
ephemerates are not looking particularly hot right now, right?
No, not right now. Not. It's definitely more of a later game card, and even if we didn't have them in our hand, I think this is a keepable hand, right? We've got a couple of lands. We can play spells.
For sure, for sure. Although we might get into this unfortunate situation that happens sometimes against Living End, where you just kind of don't have enough lands and you are kind of stuck with your Dovin's Veto that you feel forced to keep up for the entirety of the game, and eventually Violent Outburst EOT into untap Shardless Agent might get you. So that is one way this game could go. Although Hallowed Moonlight as an extra interaction piece is pretty cool, pretty
Yes.
good for Georg.
Yeah, it's a nice pickup. That means even through one grief now, there's still 2 hate pieces in play. If that grief even managed to resolve because of the veil in hand. So,
Mhm.
only thing we're really missing is a couple of lands here to be really rocking and rolling. We're main phasing over on Magica player 1 side, filling our graveyard up best we can. Waker of Waves, really good card. Not only does it put itself into the graveyard, but it also lets us put a second card and then draw one for the turn. And now we're going to see this grief come down. Veil is going to
Really
get
good
cast.
to get to Veil that.
Yeah, that's huge. Not only do we get to draw a card, we also get to stop them looking at our hand and knowing what needs to play around. But we are going to miss our 3rd land drop.
Missing a land drop here is super rough because that is going to lead you exactly the route I was afraid of. You're gonna struggle to master a reasonable defense while Magic of Player can just cycle and try to set up a double cascade hand.
See how this moves forward. A lot on the line still. Obviously, lots to play for in that top 8. Not only the money, but also the invites to the end of the year. We've had 139 players turn up this weekend, all battling out, but there can only be 8 that get invited back to play tomorrow in day number 2 in our top 8. Obviously, if you want to stay tuned and watch that, make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you also go across to the Twitter, give Mad Traders a follow there, stay up to date on all the latest formats and tournaments that will be played. Unfortunately, another Fable off the top, 3 drops, just not lining up to this 2 mana. How many land do they play in the main deck? Let's have a little look.
There's
Yeah,
28 lands in this deck, so it's not actually that many if you remember
no.
that it is a 80 card deck. So 28 lands is actually pretty It's a very low amount for a deck that is trying to go this late, and a deck that is playing so many free drops, because we see like 12 different free drop cards, and then Omnavs, 5 mana elementals, 2 Elesh Norns. Certainly feels like on the lower end of the possible land counts that this deck could choose to run.
So what's Magic of Player One's kind of strategy here? What's their game plan? Is this
The game plan
is,
is to try to, well, resolve a living end now, right? And you do that
yeah, so
by casting a
sorry,
Violent Outburst first, and then untapping and playing another Cascade spell, presumably to sidestep a counter spell. One play that can punish this play pretty hard is actually Hallowed Moonlight. That card l- lets living end actually resolve, but there's gonna be no creatures in the graveyard, so it does not let Magic of Player just untap and try again. So it's also not
that leaves us
vulnerable
open to force
to,
negation, right?
yeah, positive negation, but not mystical dispute. So it is
Where
interesting. You could Dovin's Veto, and
yeah, I
that
think
is
that's the route we're going.
uncounterable.
I think that's a safer line to as much as Hello Moonlight is really good and sets up the future stuff, but you've got no if that gets forced negation, that's it, right? It's just GG's pretty much with the amount of
Yeah,
creatures that are in that graveyard.
yeah. You just kind of have to choose, and you kind of have to choose at random. Which thing do you want to play around? Is it a Cascade spell plus a Force of Negation, or a Cascade spell plus a second Cascade spell? And
Well,
given
I've
that
got
there's
an
8
answer.
Cascade spells, it seems like they're about as likely as each other. So it makes sense to just roll a die and decide with whatever one.
That's pretty rough. We obviously an Omnath does come into play, but so does an extraordinary amount of power. I think that's 28, 29. Like, oh, jeez.
It's not
20,
over though.
27
There is,
points of damage. 29 points of damage comes onto the battlefield.
yeah, but there's 2 ephemerates. So Magic of Player can only discard 1 ephemerate, which does leave Georg with an out of just drawing a Solitude. Solitude, ephemerate Solitude, get rid of Waker of the Waves, and suddenly you're in the game. You Georg did draw a fetch land. A fetch land represents 5 extra mana with Omna, so you can actually do some stuff. You can
So
cast Risen Reef, you can cast Iteration, try to find your Solitude. So there is actually a good amount of looks for the extremely relevant card for Georg still. So this game is not over.
they do go with the ephemerate, like you said. They kind of seen that line. That's the route of how they could now lose this game if it was to happen.
Yeah,
Because over on the other
discarding
side,
the ephemerate, but still that leaves the second one. So
still 3 cards in hand. So we could be playing our forces here or not. Draw for the turn to fairy. The absolute turn we did not
that's good.
want to
That's
see it.
good. You could play the very good bounce, one of the Wakers that does. No, it's not doesn't solve all of their problems, but it does start. It's a start. It's a pretty good start.
I suppose we've got an extra 4 mana here, so we actually have 7 mana this turn, right? So we could go.
Yeah,
Okay, this is interesting. There's a lot to break down here. Let's see how they want to move forward with it. Lots of different options of this on the fire. We're going to start off with this iteration. Look at the
mm-hmm.
top 3, because obviously, as you said, we do a solitude would be quite a big deal here.
Well, had damage call. That's a way
Yeah.
to find solitude. So
Oh, and a solitude's in exile. Hmm.
well,
Maybe I would have put that one in hand and put the cooling in. Oh, I did. Okay, so we can evoke it from that. Oh, and a subtle. Jesus, this game is so crazy. um.
alright. So yeah,
So
that's
you
that.
put it on top of your deck. You play the Teferi Teferi bounce. Draw the solitude off the top of your deck, right?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
We do. Have we got the? Yeah, we've got a white floating, and then we've got a white in play if we need it. We've got a blue. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the mana to do this if we need to.
Instead, choosing to go with Eladrami Skull, which is also an
Okay.
option, although it seems like a slightly inferior one. But
I suppose we don't have an extra white
no, no,
card in.
no.
Oh no, we would have had a white card in hand.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
Aldramic Skull will be the extra white card.
Yeah.
The upside of this play is that you can play Ren 6 and secure a fetch land for the next turn, which is actually pretty relevant because you really want a fetch land with your Omnath, right?
Yeah.
You need to have the mana, so
This is actually really crazy of a game. Um, like looking at that board state at the start of the turn, you thought, okay, cool, that's it. They've done the game plan. It's over. But they've managed to find a line back into this. Like you said, Solitude was the route into it. They also seen this, and now look, Omnath on the battlefield, Solitude, Ephemerate in Exile, which will come back next turn. Running 6, bringing lands back. As long as this Omnath can stay on the battlefield with a
yeah,
Risen Reef next turn.
you simply take 13 damage this turn, but then next turn you exile Grief, you like gain 4 more life from your with your fetch land, you go Risen Reef, you go Fable. You're going places.
This all going face. Looks like it was.
So how did the Omnath end up in the graveyard? Was that a cleanup step?
Yeah, it was a cleanup step. They were
Incident?
stuck on 2 land, weren't they? So they drew to 8, and that's what was discarded.
So yeah, once again, the cleanup step strategy is actually coming up. It is a real thing. It does
Yep.
tend to happen against Living End.
Forced negation, going to stop the Solitude. Abundant growth drawn for the turn. Now we're going to start seeing the power of this Omnath plus Ren 6 being able to gain 4 life each turn if we wanted to go that route. Looks like we don't want to do that. We're just going to empty our whole hand here. Another fetch. I'm kind of wondering maybe we should have just played one spell and then cracked the fetch in the opposing turn to get an extra 4 life. We'll see if it comes apparent here.
I think it's pretty nice to get the mana, so you can just cast your reefs and get some more action. I think you want to play as many cards as possible on this turn if you can.
And
Play
Fable
Fable
coming down
now.
here with 2 extra lands in hand means we can actually potentially draw 3 extra cards next turn. Just need to not die.
Yeah, you need to block. You can like double block a stripped Riverwinder with Solitude in a Fable token. Maybe you can double block with Omnath in a Fable token. Although probably you would prefer to leave Omnath in play.
Yeah, I like the keeping Omnath alive. I think that's how we're getting back in this game, or
You should
our best way.
probably think of trying not to die to a violent outburst, but that does not seem like an immediate danger. Just violent
Well,
outburst +1/+0, no living end. But there's gonna be 3 extra life gained with Solitude, so
yeah, the Grief's got Menace, so if we want to go double block route here, we could. Um, okay, we're going to go this route. We're going to get the Grief off the battlefield rather than one of these Winders. Gain ourselves 3
sense.
life as well. So by the time everything's done and cleared up, we will be at 8 life.
Well, I think I'd prefer to trade for a Stripped Riverwinder, but it does make sense to trade for a Grief too. A menace creature is a little bit annoying to get through.
This
Atari,
is quite interesting. Why did we do the 3 damage to the Solitude instead of the Omnath? Kept the Solitude alive. So, was that it? Was there no living ends? Are we out of
yeah,
living ends now?
there's only 3 living ends in the deck, so just well, is there? Let's check the graveyard.
Trying to get that up.
So there's
1,
two, yeah, there's
2.
2 living ends there, and there's one in the exile. So
Okay,
the
so yeah,
neutral
we are
player
all out of it.
one is only playing 3 living ends, so they have to win with what they have now. So
I can't help but feel that
just
that absolutely is advantage bar to the 4-color Omnath player, especially when they get to ditch 2 cards, draw 2 more, one of them being Fury that you're seeing on play here, another one
Mhm.
being Solitude with an active Omnath and a Risen Reef. We're going to Value Town. We drew another
yeah,
Fury off the
the only
top.
thing to regret is maybe not having traded for a stripped Riverwind there, so that you could use your Solitude and the Grief too. But probably shouldn't impact the result of this game anymore.
Having a look, see what
If Fury can trade for Riverwinder.
do we even attack? You know what I mean? Like the crackback could be even bigger.
Yeah, well, you have to attack. Like, if they
Well,
don't
we're
have
not
living
winning,
ends in
right?
your deck, so how do you win if you stop attacking?
They could. They do have endurances. Not that they might have brought them in this matchup, but an endurance target themselves to get their living ends back in their deck might be a line. But I don't really think endurance is. This is the matchup for it.
Honestly, it might be like not the worst endurance matchup, and the reason being just targeting your opponent if they start clean up discarding
Mm.
creatures, right? Because it seems like otherwise it is a little bit of a struggle to fight through that.
6 life, solitude in hand, fury in hand, wood foothills, active running 6, and a fable about to flip into the Kiki
Yeah.
Jiki side.
So we see end of turn solitude, exile agent, trigger reef, maybe hit a land, maybe gain 4 extra land with Omnath. Why not?
So much value, and yeah, we're just
And
going to scoop
Georg
it up.
just wins the match.
Too much
What a
for them.
crazy match.
Congratulations, Forgo, of that. That's that crazy kind of like sideboard plan of keeping a no land. Didn't really get there with that one, but in this one, 2 lands looked like they were struggling. Were able to discard 1 card, that Omnath, and it kind of turned the game, right? They managed to gain a good 12 to 16 life off it and taking it down. Real good games there, lots of high level play, but congratulations on someone that we know is in the top 8. Remember, tomorrow is when the top 8 will be streamed. So if you've not hit that follow button, make sure you hit that follow button. That is the last game of this round. So the top 8 is going to get posted, I imagine, on Twitter pretty soonish, or you could be able to find it on the website. So make sure you go and give whichever social media platform of your choice a look to find out who we will be seeing tomorrow. We'll be back nice and early. I'm waiting for Adrian to tell me which time tomorrow that the stream starts. I should know this. 12 p.m. EST. So wherever you are in the world, obviously that's quite late in the afternoon for us, but people in America watching, that is your afternoon. That is when the top 8 is going to be announced. That is when we're going to see who is going to get those invites to play in the 48 player end of year 25k event, as well as the bragging rights saying that they managed to take down the Mana Traders series, which was modern, the best format of them all. Don't come at me, chat. Kanister, always been a pleasure. Same thing tomorrow. Want to do it again? Run it back?
It's been a pleasure. It's been some crazy games to watch, and it's been good times, certainly.
One last time. Do you want to try this high five?
No,
No,
let's
okay,
take
cool.
that spot
We're
tomorrow.
scrapped on it. Let's see. No more high fives, Cancer says. That is
No,
us,
let's
ladies and
save that spot
gentlemen.
tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna get it.
Tomorrow we'll nail it. Is that a pinky promise? You promising we're going to nail this? I got you. Okay, I'm happy with that. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, that is it going to be from us. Shout out to Adrian, working super hard behind the scenes. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you later on. See you around.
See you.